This is The Stuff Dreams Are Made Of. I'm writer-collector Ryan Condal.
And I'm writer-collector Dave Mandel. And hopefully you are still with us here at The Stuff Dreams Are Made Of as we enter into hour 49 of the Greg Jein collection catalog crawl. Is that what
earning
this is?
our keep here?
Yes,
as
brought
with
to
our
you,
new sponsors.
Yes, our new sponsor, Heritage. But this is a. I think we were talking about this with Rob Klein. This is I would buy a hardcover of this catalog and put it on my shelf. If they sold me a hardcover of this,
with like an index and like a reference.
I would put this catalog. Normally, as I go through the catalog, which are sort of thick and whatever, I literally tear the stuff I'm interested out of the catalog so I can get just put less on my desk and stuff. And I kind of want an extra copy of this for my bookshelf just forever. This is a posterity catalog. We are going through it. If you're joining us, we are going through it lot by lot by lot. You can watch online. You can look at the catalog online at ha.com, which is the Heritage website, and there's also instructions for downloading a PDF, so you can kind of turn through it, or you'll have yours. The auction is October 14th and 15th this year, 2023, in Dallas. And I believe on the night of the 13th, they are going to have a special get-together with a bunch of the people that knew Greg. And I believe I'm going to be there kind of hosting or co-hosting that. And Ryan will be on a Zoom or maybe I'll hold up a photo.
Yes, I'll be somewhere jealous. That's where I'll be. And
or for the first time, not jealous.
Maybe we'll see how it goes,
because you can't. Hey Dave, you can't say Dallas doesn't love you. Anyway,
that's right.
I'm basically
you already have the golf ball from the book depository.
Yes, exactly.
So what else is there?
I'm excited to go visit Heritage, but also I am going back to the Depository Museum, and I'm going to buy you a golf ball when I get there. So just know
and
that
Becky,
that is
I hope.
Know that is your Christmas gift this year.
You.
So
thank you.
But October 14th and 15th, auction in Dallas. Go if you could go. Say hi to me, but also more importantly, get registered for this thing. This is insane. And the other thing I will throw in there, because I'm sure we'll say this somewhere in an ad, whatever, but I'm already sort of figuring out what I'll be sending to Heritage to sell to help pay for what I'll be doing. And they're very good about that kind of stuff.
I think, by the way, I think Joe and Brian did mention jokingly that they are actually planning a whole sub-auction based on just the stuff that they get in from desperate
early
consigners
2024, like the stuff
trying to pay down their Greg Jein bill. Yes.
I'll tell you something. In the world of other collections, there have been sometimes these monumental sales that just shake things up. There was an incredible collection of comic art many years ago. The Christopher collection. I won't say the first name just in case I don't know how well known it is or isn't. And when that kind of got broken up, obviously people got these incredible pieces from his collection. He had some of the most early wonderful Kirby, but what it also did was people gave things up from their collection for the first time. And so the collection churn was just insane. So it wasn't just what you can get from the Greg Jein collection, but it's sort of like what you can get come, the beginning of 2024 that other people are giving up. The other thing with Heritage, which I'll sort of point out here, and again, I'm sure there'll be an ad about this at some point or another. And this is, I'm guessing, part of why, I'm guessing why Joe moved Profiles over, although he's never said this to me specifically. But it's such a giant auction house that, number one, they can do time payments with the blink of an eye. So you can get time payments, number one, pretty easily with them. You have to arrange it in advance, but they will do time payments, and it's pretty easy, and they can float you. So that's wonderful. It's very simple and easy because they are that big. But number two, they auction off everything and anything. So this is your chance to get rid of your, uncle's coin collection to help buy stuff from the Greg Jein collection. This is your opportunity to get rid of stamps and comic books or whatever it is. And by the way, I'm sure I'm going to end up giving up comic art to help pay for some of what I buy in the Greg Jein collection, because I'm much longer in comic art than I am in the props I want to get rid of. And so you'll probably see things that were my stuff in upcoming comic art auctions, and you'll know because I'm trying to pay off whatever it is I'm going after. So anyway, something to think about as you go through this
and
thing.
For me, I'm sort of tortured because there's so many things that I'm interested in and so many things that I want, and one of them is coming up in a couple of lots, but I don't know what to get. But I also feel compelled to get something because I've been doing this collecting for so long, and Greg is such a fixture that I'm not just going to buy something to buy something, but I want to have something meaningful to me.
I think there's something
from the Greg
incredible.
Jein collection.
It would be wonderful to get something super unique that you actually do want from the Greg Jein collection. I completely agree with that. That just sort of I don't know. It's this is very much a where were you collection. Do you know what I mean? Just like you're either going to have been there or not. And again, we got to see this years ago a little bit with the Debbie Reynolds. We've seen this with a couple of other auctions have come close, but and obviously you and I were not around for the MGM auction back in the day, but obviously we wish we were. So I don't know. This feels on that level. Like this is an earth-shaking kind of auction. I don't say this. I don't know.
Lightly.
I don't say this about every auction, whether they pay me or not. I don't say this about every auction. So take that as you will.
Well, shall we?
Well, let's dive in with our 27 of the catalog. And we'll try and get through this. You may want to pause and go urinate. This is going to be a while. Although I guess if you're alone, you can just urinate while you're listening to us. Actually, we prefer if you just use the bathroom. Yeah,
and just please whiz along with us.
How many of our listeners are listening to us just on the toilet? Just let us know, please. So
please
let's just jump in. I guess we signed off on the last section. We were sort of in Star Trek movie land, and I guess it only makes sense that this starts with Star Trek: The Next Generation, which I believe Greg worked on some of this. I believe, but I don't know.
I think he was. I think he was called in to help out, to do some jobs on the show, and certainly was paying attention because he loved Trek so much. But we'll find out as we go. Yeah. So we begin with these two lots, 319 and 320. Other sort of stills archives, which I just love. I mean, we've talked about this a little bit before, but Next Gen was my Star Trek. This was the Star Trek that I grew up on. I missed original series. I liked the movies because my dad liked the movies and he was into Kirk and Spock. I certainly liked the Voyage Home and came to really appreciate Wrath of Khan later in life. But for me, when I was a kid, it was Voyage Home, Undiscovered Country. I just love those two movies, those two wonderful slices of the 80s and the very early 90s. But then it was Next Gen for me, and that was why I watched on the couch with my dad every Sunday night. Sunday night? Was they Sunday nights? They were Sunday nights, I think, right?
Was this? I was trying to honestly remember. Was this on UPN,
I think that's
or
correct.
was that later? I don't even know.
CBS, I think, on Sunday night, and we watched together, and that was this the Star Trek that we shared. So I watched all those episodes as they aired, all the way on through, and it's just very exciting to get into what did Greg have from Next Gen, because that was the one. That's the one that I would collect from.
Sure.
And I don't have anything Star Trek in my collection.
Let me tell you what he had from that, which is lot 21. He had 400 plus scripts and related materials. So let's just start there. Again, I mean, I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know what you do with this. Yeah.
Just like I will bid on this just to bid on it, and then to take the things that I want and then break it up and then put it back into auction and possibly turn a profit. I mean, 400. I get why they're doing it, but also it's so many scripts, and
you should 400.
You're like, they only made 150 episodes or whatever it was.
I want you to buy this and then spend your time selling them on eBay. I just think that'd be a good use of your time.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Will you please create an eBay store for yourself?
I will. Here's something I won't be selling on eBay.
322. This is pretty cool. So let's just start here.
It's so good.
Probably the thing I think most people want when you talk Next Gen, honestly, a full, complete Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart uniform. The really, really great labeled Patrick 1 on the inside, has the badge on it. Season 3, this is what I call the better design, if you will, of the uniforms, not the season 1
not
sort of
the jumpsuit with the low collar.
Yeah, this is when it kind of got a little more serious and, I don't know, a little bit better, and they didn't have to keep pulling. Right? Isn't that in season 1? They're constantly
this is where this started, because it used to be the
one they do? Okay.
Jumpsuit, and this began the constant
so this is
pulling,
the start of it. Okay, I knew it was
which
one
becomes
of the other.
a bit of ASMR, a bit of comfort as you watch Star Trek, watching Jonathan Frakes pull on his tunic all the time. Just love
a drinking game of some sort.
Yes, yes. But, I love this, and I will be bidding. There you go.
I will not be bidding, but I will be egging you on. So there you go.
Very good.
I mean, look, this is, as we've sort of seen with everything that Greg has, this is, even though he wasn't really, I think he himself wouldn't have called himself a costume guy even, which is sort of funny, but I guess Trek was the exception, as we saw with
he liked the
series.
stuff. I mean, he liked the hand props, certainly hardware, miniatures, of course. But he has a lot of Star Trek costumes.
Yeah. 23 Riker jacket, 24 Dr. Crusher.
LeVar Burton, Geordi LaForge tunic.
But no, you know what's funny? For a prop guy, he doesn't have a Geordi
visor. Yeah.
Visor thing.
Yeah, I thought you were going Data.
Just sort of interesting wherever that fits in. Yeah.
But yes, there's no data uniform is an oddly kind of missing one in this. And then this is nuts.
This makes me laugh. Are you on 27? Yeah. This is now the third or fourth iteration of a shuttle from Star Trek that we've seen, because he had the original Galileo.
Yeah.
Then he had like a movie Galileo.
The Vulcan one that Spock arrives on.
Yes. The Surak or whatever that was. And then
Mr.
from the
Jein
movie.
loves shuttlecraft.
And then the Copernicus. This is, we always joke about things like, my Playboy magazine collection, or my Bond collection, my Treasury Bond collection and whatnot. But the idea of having a Star Trek miniature shuttle collection,
very specifically,
is fucking great.
Where are all the shuttlecraft?
If this is all you had were just the shuttlecrafts.
Greg had
goddamn good for you.
328.
Great looking little model. I'm just saying, just great looking little model.
Yes, indeed, and so next gen in its design and the lines and everything.
Curves, if you will, the curves of next gen.
I love it.
Yeah, it almost looks the way like the phasers a little bit. You know what I mean? It almost you can feel the same sort of sense of the phasers and the communicators in this thing. There's the curves of the Enterprise. Anyway, yeah, really cool. I'm stopping on 28 as an art guy.
I love this design. I love how they updated the battle cruisers for the Klingons. They had these kind of that's their Galaxy class sort of equivalent ship, like the Enterprise, but they also kept the birds of prey around. So they also had these little kind of fighter ships and the birds of prey, but then the starships, the ones that had the massive crews on it, were these battle cruisers, Vorcha class battle cruiser. And the concept art is in there, and it's glorious. It's a wonderful
it's just
thing.
A gorgeous piece of art.
Yeah. So then I'm on to 330 now.
This is pretty cool.
The phaser rifle, and this begins kind of the hand props from next gen. Man, just so cool. And like, I've gone back and forth. I mean, we talked in day one about how iconic and we all picked the phaser 2 at the end of the episode for the one thing that we'd have from the
it's pretty incredible
from the catalog. And I've gone back and forth and sort of like, I love these designs because I love next generation, but do I actually love the design, or do I just has the nostalgia leaked in and made me want to have these things? And I don't know. I think I love the design. I think it is actually a reasonable evolution for the so-called 23rd century, don't you?
There's definitely a sense of the evolution of like sort of like there's a logical sense, as opposed to when you look at like the prequel movies and like all of us, it's like we were living in the Italian Renaissance, and then 20 years later everything was radically different. You know what I mean? There is a definitive logic here as it kind of moves forward. I get a kick out of them. I don't know if I think they're like, I don't know. This is a very strange argument. I enjoy them. They're a little nondescript for me, except I know they're from next gen, if that makes any sense. I guess I like a ray gun that looks like a ray gun. So I don't know. I don't know. It's I'm not sure. I think this is probably just a taste issue. Do you have, just to keep jumping down for a second, because obviously these next couple of lots here are all kind of really interesting, the hypo spray, whatever, but you get to lot 34, 35, 36, you've got definitively the 3 types of phasers from next gen. So there's the Dustbuster, the Cobra Head, and the Boomerang.
The Boomerang.
Do you have a favorite of the 3?
I mean, probably the Cobra Head, just because that's the one that I most associate with next gen. The Dustbuster was like, it kind of came and went. It's very cool. They're very rare. They call it out in the auction description. Those are just not around. But to me, it's the Cobra Head. It's lot 335. That's the thing that I just associate with that.
That's what
with
you
that show.
Remember, gotcha.
Yeah. And I don't know that I need to have one. I think I'd like to have one eventually, but for me, I would be one and done next gen with the Picard uniform. I would just say, there it is.
But if you're grabbing it, it feels like it's at least worth watching where these things go, because there's enough of them here where you might be able to grab one. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. And the starting bid on each of these is very reasonable. So
yeah. And the other thing I was going to say is, I mean, a lot of these things sort of float around and whatever. I don't know, to have a next gen one from the Greg Jein collection. I mean, again, that's where to me that from the Greg Jein collection kind of means something. I don't know. I think it could be kind of cool. Various just background uniforms and whatnot, which are just really cool. For the cosplayer in your life, I think that's
and if you're a next gen fan and you don't have a Captain Picard budget, I mean, I would just grab one of these BG uniforms. I mean, they are Star Trek uniforms, and they're clearly next
they are
gen,
exactly the same. They are just different colors and whatnot, and it's just kind of great. I mean, what else can you say? Really, really neat. I think
I like 339 through 341, the alternate timeline uniforms. Those are so cool, and those appeared, of course, in All Good Things, which is the series finale, the 2-parter series finale written by Ron Moore, well-known science fiction writer, creator of Battlestar Galactica, and many other things. These uniforms are used in that episode, and I just think, I don't know what you think of it, Dave.
Your next gen knowledge is just kicking my ass. I watched those episodes. I mean, I definitely saw them when they came, but I could not have. I did not recognize. I guess when I see the picture of old Picard there, I guess I vaguely recognize it. Yeah.
Yes, when he's working in the winery and he's having that the memory issue, and he doesn't know whether he's in the past or the future, and it's all kind of Q driven, but in a really good way, in a deeply kind of emotional and melancholic. It's sort of like Star Trek done by Ernest Hemingway in an odd way. And I love All Good Things. I think it's one of the best series finales ever. I just think in the way that the great series finales that you think of over time, Sopranos, these things that really Veep, the things that hit you and stick with you, and Veep. And Veep, and make you leave you kind of reeling in a way where you think about it for so long afterwards, and it resonates and makes you kind of sad and miss the thing that you loved, and so few shows manage to kind of stick that landing.
What I remember, and I'm going to mostly agree with you, is that it was some really good stuff. And obviously, I don't know, I think, when you think about that whole show, the dance between Picard and Q, from the pilot on, it really sort of speaks to something. What I do unfortunately remember is there's a big chunk near the end where they're just, yet again kind of reversing the dish or something like that, and it does have that next gen problem of the techno babble solve. I don't know what I think there's another way of referring to that, but it's the one part of the show that always did drive me crazy, which is such human things, and then it just kind of, I don't know, that's my, if you will, my criticism as somebody who did like it a lot, but it was just sort of there's just always that kind of, if we reverse the polarity, and you just go, oh man, come on. Yeah. They never quite figured out the Spock fixes the warp drive by sacrificing himself.
Yeah,
The Wrath of Khan, just to talk,
which is a high water mark. But there, for the 150 whatever episodes of that show, probably closer to 170 if you do the 25 or 26 times 7 math. But I think that there are 30 to 50 truly great science fiction stories in that run. I just do. Done on a television budget, which is very, very admirable. I like Lot 343.
Yeah. Oh, 343.
I was just simply because it's the cricket phaser, but it's screen matched, and I just love it. It's screen matched to Wesley Crusher, which is very, very complicated screen match for a lot of next gen fans. Are like, I love having a screen match phaser, but it's Wesley Crusher. Not.
Does that mean it will go really cheap because it's Wesley Crusher? I mean, people hate him, right? They just despise him.
I mean, I think time has sort of helped that whole situation with him, and certainly Will Wheaton being so charming and lovable, and in his sort of post Wesley Crusher career has helped. I'm interested with this one because, I mean, who would think that there was a screen match phaser from Next Gen? I mean, I just never thought you'd get close enough to see it. I think it's very cool. I could see that one doing a bit of business, but we shall see. This is very interesting. You were getting at 344, the battle cruiser from the past, which is very cool. And I would imagine, it doesn't say, does it say? I would imagine maybe Greg had something to do with the making of this simply because of the era it came from, right?
Yeah, it says this model was created by designer and model making legend Greg Jein for the episode The Emissary and was used in later episodes.
Yeah, there you go.
So this is an opportunity to get a Greg Jein miniature from a show Greg Jein really liked in the Greg Jein auction. That's the Greg Jein triumvirate. Yeah. You get all excellent. You get your full Greg Jein there. So yeah.
Yes. And then 345, just a cool ship, a McKee.
Hooper! My dog. I apologize, everyone.
Hooper is a giant miniature fan.
Are you on the McKee? Sorry, 345.
He prefers the new Klingon battlecruiser design.
He was a huge fan of, I don't know. I can't even, he's throwing my game completely.
Hooper!
Dear God.
I like how you yell at him like Robert Shaw, Dave.
Yeah. Hooper!
So this McKee fighting miniature, McKee fighter filming miniature for Deep Space Nine, but also used in Next Gen, I guess the later seasons. Very cool, very like sort of modern Next Gen. And then for me, it's a small thing, but that episode is just so goddamn great. A pair of nacelles from Yesterday's Enterprise.
From Yesterday's Enterprise.
So these were the nacelles that updated one of the ships to make it look different, and they just created the nacelles and put it on a different model to sort of save in model building. But that is anybody that hasn't.
Just to throw this in here, Greg Jein designed in there. So sorry, go ahead. Yeah,
this is the thing that I will.
This to me is the best episode of Next Gen. By the way. This to me,
and I would say anybody that hasn't seen Next Gen and is sort of like stayed on the sidelines, season 3. Go in, watch Yesterday's Enterprise. It is a banger from the opening frame to the end. It's alternate timelines and time travel and human drama and high stakes decision making. It is just great. It really reminds me of I think was Ron Moore Yesterday's Enterprise. I don't want to credit him the episode if it's not true.
I couldn't tell you.
But it reminds me a lot of 33, the wonderful Battlestar Galactica. Sort of premiere of the main show, and they're kind of running from this as a similar kind of clock to it. It's not about space. It's not about warp jumps and things like that, but it has a similar kind of feel and clock and the kind of hard sci-fi writ against human drama. Anyway, 347. Captain Kirk's
I've lost track of how many Captain Kirks we've seen at this
when
point,
you get to the movies. I mean, there have to be 10 already, right? 10 Kirk uniforms in this auction.
This is pretty incredible. So this is his Generations one, the movie,
which is the first of the Next Gen movie, which is this is the Next Gen movie problem. Just being a fan and also a critic, they could not make a next gen movie without somehow involving Kirk and Spock, and it just became maddening at the end, where it's like, just do your own thing. And I love Kirk and Spock, but
no, absolutely. They also seemed on some level, they never quite figured out how to not outdo their TV-ness. I don't know, as movies.
Yeah, they were always felt like long TV episodes, whereas Wrath of Khan, Search for Spock, Voyage Home, Undiscovered Country, these are movies. Yes, movies. Exactly.
Yeah,
whatever you think of them, they're movies. And if you don't like Wrath of Khan, you should just cancel your subscription. First Contact, I think were the best of the movies.
Is that what people think of as the best of them? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best.
Yeah.
But it has the whole weird sort of side story with Logan Roy's brother. What's his name? James Cromwell. As the inventor of the warp, warp drive, Cockrum, right? Yeah, the inventor of the warp drive.
Cochrane. Cochrane, yes.
And I don't know. It's like the Borg story was so interesting, and then why are you finally have your movie, and then they make it a TV show. That sort of frustration. But I do like First Contact, and the production value is very high. It's very cool, and the phaser designs are awesome. And that's what in
that movie, as I remember it felt like in their designs, they that was where, much in the way Khan took the Star Trek designs at that point and kind of gave it a kind of militaristic twist a little bit, like the naval stuff. I felt like at the time, First Contact took a lot of the costumes and the weaponry and kind of sharpened that up a little bit more badass.
It definitely felt more military, and even the lighting on the bridge was darker, and it felt more like a submarine. And they took a lot of the cues from that world. A bulkhead plaque, 353 Bajoran phaser.
I was going to call out 352 really quickly. Sorry, really quickly, this is a Bajoran phaser. And I think we've talked about this in other catalogs. I just love the way they sort of had the phaser, and then for each society, each culture, everybody had their own phaser. And I've always, I think I've spoken about this. I had a buddy, he's now, sadly, James Young, who's now unfortunately passed away earlier in the year. And he had this wall of all the different phasers, like he had a Romulan one, a Vulcan one, whatever. And I've always, it's the one thing I've always thought about recreating if you could do it reasonably. There's a Kardashian one, or Cardassian. I guess Kardashian now means something completely different.
Cardassian.
In Star Trek. Yeah, exactly. Not to be confused.
Still intensely evil, but different.
Destroying the universe in a different way.
Yes.
Anyway, I just always think they're cool. So the end.
Yes.
Sorry.
This cool, really cool phaser rifle 354 is a Hero TR-116 rifle from Field of Fire. I don't remember that episode. I actually really do like Deep Space Nine. I'm just not as familiar with it because I didn't do the rewatches as regularly as I was doing with Next Gen.
I know this episode, which is their Tribbles episode, where the cast of Deep Space Nine went into the original series,
which was very cool.
Yeah. And so this is like a Klingon costume, which matches like an original series costume. Anyway, I think this stuff is all really, really neat.
Yes, and that's 356 there.
Yeah. And then 358 is when Deep Space Nine, I think, went sort of darker with their uniforms. Like originally they started off a little more Star Trek-y, and then they kind of got a little more serious. And these
more
are
military
cool too. Yeah, exactly. Where are we going? A tricorder, 61. That's a Voyager and Deep Space Nine stack. It's still really cool looking. Not with the electric lights, but still really nice. Couple of these
and then
really
another
cool.
one, 362.
Yep.
Another static. Interesting that he didn't have any next gen tricorders. I figured he would have been all over that.
Yeah, you'd have thought,
hardware.
Especially like a working lit up one, he would have just had one just to have one, just to be.
And those are so cool. Yeah. That's one thing that I would love to have. I think I would probably take that over a Hero Phaser as a working tricorder from next gen,
just from all the lights and stuff.
Yeah,
it's all pretty cool. I agree. I'm guessing one that will mean a lot to a lot of people is 364, which is a 7 of 9 ensemble, as they say.
Yes.
Obviously, very popular character. Yes. Jerry Ryan. She was just on the new Picard and whatnot. Yep. Did you make it through? Have you watched the new?
I've not watched an episode of it. I keep hearing people telling me I have to do it.
I
will
sit
down
enjoy the season 3 of it all.
I will just do season 3, and at some point I will I would
Yeah.
jam through it. I knew the showrunner Terry Matalas, really, really just sweet guy, nice guy, and a true genre fan. I knew him from his days back in the NBC Universal universe because we used to do Comic-Con tours together because he was running that show 12 Monkeys on Sci-Fi the same time that I was running Colony. So we would always end up on these like sort of genre tours together over at Comic-Con, and we were both beleaguered NBC Universal cable showrunners, I will say.
Perfect.
But
perfect,
very good
perfect,
guy.
perfect,
I'm glad to see his success. We have I like this Robert McNeil Captain Proton 3-piece retro. It's like it is Commando Cody, right? Kind of done.
I mean, look at it. Fully is. I mean, look at the
and it's
the
like you're doing the math of like, well, Greg was involved. Did he have to do with that? Were they homaging Greg in writing that storyline?
But he could have pitched it. I mean, I can't imagine he pitched it to them. So they clearly knew something, but it's just kind of cool looking.
I just love it.
I have no idea what this episode is, so I'm sorry.
No, I did not watch Voyager, admittedly, 367, but very
I watched
cool.
it at the beginning a little bit. It just sort of a very interesting idea for me. The idea of like half a rebel crew and half a good crew, but like it was like by the end of like episode 1, all conflict was gone anyway, such as it was. 368 is really neat. This is a design concept maquette for the Voyager, built by Greg Jein. So again, another Greg Jein,
cool.
The Greg Jein hat trick. Greg Jein cubed, designed, collected, and sold.
And Star Trek, I think.
And I guess so maybe
completing it
to the 4th. Yes, exactly.
Dave, there's a shuttlecraft model at 369.
Thank God. By the way, though, fantastic. I'm sorry to say that it doesn't have a cool name like the other shuttles do. Yeah. But come on, here's your shuttlecraft collection. Pretty damn great.
So cool. Voyager. Yeah.
This makes me laugh, starting with 370. These are costumes from the Star Trek experience in Las Vegas, which I was at many, many years ago and quite enjoyed.
It's amazing. And you wonder, did Greg have to do with the setting up the experience or something, or was building stuff for it?
I wonder if he did something for them, like building or set deck or anything like that, just because he was sort of working in that area on the back end. So anyway, I like the look of 373, which is an Enterprise pistol. So this was the sort of prequel show, I guess.
The UPN show. And the hardware on that show is always really cool. And I like that show because I actually did watch the first season of that show and actually quite enjoyed it, because it really was the submarine Star Trek show. And the timeline was pre-Cage. So even Captain Pike, certainly pre Kirk and Spock. It was like the initial iteration of Star Trek and the first run of the Enterprise, before it was even the NCC 1701, I believe. And it was in a day and time when the technology was still a bit wobbly and nobody trusted the transporters.
Right, they're scared of the transporters,
but they wouldn't use them, so they took shuttlecraft everywhere, and it kind of complicated the missions because you always had to kind of get in the shuttlecraft and pilot somewhere. So it made it really interesting. I love the very like kind of utilitarian military uniforms from it, but I love the hardware designs. Lot 378 and particularly, and then as Dave called out, lot 373, two really kind of just military hardware looking designs from that show, which lasted 4 seasons.
Just to jump in between there, look at 377. I don't know quite how this ended up here, but this is from Star Trek: The Motion Picture. They're calling these pre-LCARs, but really, really cool. Just of the Enterprise, transparencies of the original original Enterprise. Yeah,
which is just very cool, even to just throw in a light box and put some LED light behind it.
I mean, just because it's the Enterprise. I mean, I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just pretty neat.
That's one to flag for sure.
And then it looks like we get into the JJ movie, right? Starting with 380.
Yes.
So we've got 381 is a Carl Urban McCoy.
Yes, very cool. I'm surprised that he has anything from this. I just figured that this would be of no interest to him, but it's cool that he does. I don't know.
You wonder, like, if people like gave him this stuff, like at some point,
possibly.
Like a little bit, like I don't know. It's just it's hard to imagine him actively acquiring, although maybe he just felt like, in the grand scheme of his Star Trek collection, he had to. I don't know. But by the way, a couple of key characters: Simon Pegg, Carl Urban, Alice Eve, and then he's got a hero phaser. Look at 385, and I did like those phasers a lot.
They're very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the rotating barrel. It was like their stun and their kill or like it flips. I always thought that was really neat. I actually always wanted one of these. Maybe perhaps buried in this giant auction is the opportunity to just get one
for opening bid. Yeah, as people are paying attention to other things. And then this has to have been a gift, right? 387 Mayim Bialik.
I don't even know
from Big Bang Theory.
Like from the Big Bang Theory, but a Star Trek thing.
They did a Star Trek episode.
But maybe they reached out to Greg and were like, "Can we borrow your costume so we can make a costume, and we'll give you this costume?" I just couldn't even begin to tell you.
But very cool.
Just kind of wild, yeah.
And now we get into a section that I don't know anything about, but I know you do, Dave. So I will turn the mic over.
Yeah, no, I don't know quite what to say. These are basically, I guess these are, God bless Greg. He collected a little bit of everything. And so, yeah, of course, it turns out he's got the 1974 Mego Star Trek toys. This is the shit I played with as a kid. They made, most of the original crew and aliens, and there was a bridge. And they've taken these and they've graded them. A couple of them have gotten some nice grades, a couple of 80s. 70s aren't bad, but these are nice. The aliens are particularly hard to find. He's got one of the Gorns. He's got the Sharon, who's the half black, half white from that episode.
Yeah, the Keeper.
These are all really nice. The grades are solid. Some are better than others. Yeah.
Why doesn't he have Spock?
You know what? Who knows? Maybe Greg had so much stuff. My God, maybe there's it hasn't turned up quite yet. I do wonder. I haven't really asked them, have they managed to get through everything?
Is there another tranche coming?
Right.
Yeah, which is
or by the way, maybe his Spock was in really terrible condition. Who knows? Yeah. There's a couple missing here and there, but
he couldn't
still
resist. He opened it
neat.
And played with it.
Yeah. No, exactly. That's the one he opened and had on his desk. But I don't know, really, really cool. I always wonder about these things. I was just laughing about maybe is this your chance to get the phaser? I don't know. In an auction where everybody's going to be paying attention to the props.
Yeah,
this is possibly your chance to grab a nice set of these Megos again and by the way, one nice thing, check it out. From the Greg Jein collection. So they are labeled from the Greg Jein collection, which is a very nice thing to sort of, I don't know, if you had a couple of these figures from the Greg Jein collection, I don't know. I think that's really cool. So,
and I like too, that the little price tag, the little green price tag that you see on them, Greg bought all these himself in the store. I like that part too.
Technically, in a perfect world, you'd want it so that that the price tag, you want them sort of unpunched, which a lot of these are, which means that the thing that goes on the rack isn't punched out. But you would prefer if it has no price tag on it. And I'm guessing some of the price tag ones may technically lower the grades. Although the Neptunian has an 85 and has a price tag. So I don't honestly know enough about the grading per se. But anyway, they're really neat. And then there's a nice lunchbox and thermos as well. Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
So two questions, Dave.
Yeah.
Question number one, do you have these?
I do.
In your collection?
I do. Yes.
Okay. Do you have a Spock?
Yeah. I do. I bought basically, I put together sort of a full set along with the Enterprise bridge, which had this incredible mechanical transporter, which is basically it's like a cabinet where you press a button and it spins it around, so he kind of disappears, the character disappears. It's almost like a disappearing cabinet. And I think they had the same device for the Hurricane in a Mego Wizard of Oz set. But anyway, that was really cool. And then there was this really cool playset, Mission to Gamma something or other, which is this alien thing. And at the bottom of it's a big dragon's head. And at the bottom of it, it had a glove built in that you could put your hand in so that the alien hand could grab the figures. It really well thought out for 1970s toy design.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, so my second question is, what is Kirk worth?
I don't know. I honestly,
Okay.
I've lost
Is it
all
thousands?
track. No, I don't think it's thousands. I mean, these are, I hate to say it, these are not uncommon figures. These figures
really?
do
Okay.
exist. They
Because
do
when I think of
exist on
Mego,
the
I think of
car.
like the
Yeah.
the superheroes, which I know
Yeah.
are super rare, right? Those are the really crazy.
And
Like
look, I'm not saying they're
Amigo
nothing,
Wonder
but
Woman
I
is
don't
like a
think
big
these are
deal,
not
right?
like rocket firing Boba Fett's. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
These exist, I guess.
Which you
They'll
also
get
have
them,
three of.
Yeah, well, sure. And let me just say, Greg had none of, so there you go.
Because you had all of them.
And I like the lunchbox. I think I said that too.
The
I think
lunchbox
that's
is
really
very cool.
Yeah, that looks really, really neat as well. With the thermos, which is always a big to do to have the thermos. So wherever that fits in. Wow. Well, that was pretty cool, the next gen stuff. I mean, just because you're such a fan, having gotten through all of it, are you just right back to the Picard, basically, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the other character I would think about would be Data, but he doesn't have a Data.
Yeah, funny, no Data. Yeah, I agree. I like Data.
Yeah,
I liked a lot of the Worf stuff too, which he doesn't have a lot of Worf either. Just because I like the Klingon joins the whatever.
Very cool. Very cool. And Worf he was sort of they didn't do much with him early, and then he was just the angry guy that always, the joke was like, Captain, we're being held. I've put up the shields and locked photon torpedoes on the target. Like, he was always ready to go. But he became a very interesting, complex character as they went on and developed him, as he got more and more assimilated sort of into kind of Federation culture, so to speak. It was an interesting.
You made your way all the way through it, and I definitely watched, but maybe not like perfectly and religiously. And I was trying to remember, at some point or another, they completely broke up Deanna Troi and Riker, and she and Worf, and like Worf's.
That was more movie era.
But Worf had a kid too, right?
Yes,
like I thought they were
Alexander.
like a little family at some point.
No? No. I think she counseled Alexander in the show, but no, Alexander was I don't think he was half human. I might be wrong about this. He might have been half human, which is why he had all the crazy emotions. But
was he adopted, or was he Worf's actual son from like?
No, I think he was Worf's actual
son.
Yeah, because he had
with
that
another
weird
Klingon. Yeah,
the last name, Tarashenko or whatever. He was. Yeah, I forgot the exact story about him, but it was all the way to like humanize Worf. But normally anything with Troi.
By the way, normally I would apologize to the listener at this point, but I mean, come on, you're here, so you probably know the answer to this. You're probably yelling at your iPhone right now, his wife was so and so, and the
podcast.
Whatever. Yeah,
we're gonna distract you with some Jane Fonda from Barbarella photos in lot 401. So just go look at those for a little bit.
Barbarella. There's some Bonnie and Clyde photos. The Barbarella ones are obviously
cool.
are gorgeous. I'm stopping at 402. This is a little bit of earth shattering. This is Robert McCall, final poster concept artwork for the 2001 Space Odyssey poster. Holy shit.
And it is the poster. It's not just it's like it is the poster just done in sort of pencil and ink, like
a black and white, I guess, before the painting kind of a thing. As they say, nearly identical to the key color. Yeah, it absolutely is. Just
starting bid 20K. I mean,
great.
What is this? 200, 250 at the end?
I mean, to me, it's 100 if it's nothing, but my God. I mean, come on. I mean, Christopher Nolan, if you're not bidding on this, I don't know what you're bidding on.
That's right.
He's a big fan of the show, listener. Thank you.
He is.
By the way, I mean, I'm sort of looking at this and then, of course, ignoring what comes next, which, of course, is just also
trying
insane.
not to think about it, Dave.
Yeah. I mean, look at this. I mean, let's just stop and look at this poster art for 1 second. Okay. I mean, just iconic. There's no other word for it. Just iconic. Yeah. Just iconic. And then you scroll down, flip down, whatever. 403, a full 2001 astronaut spacesuit. I mean, what do you say here?
It's one of the silver ones from the moon base. So it's not Bowman or Poole, but it is just insane, and the helmet's in like perfect condition with the decal on it. And I
look at the backpack, the front chest thing. I mean,
I love this.
This is insane. I would kill for the helmet alone.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, The helmet alone is incredible. I mean, I hate to say, talk about pieces where I guess I just somehow hope that, like, on some level, that like the Academy Museum could somehow bid on this. I mean, I hate to say,
They did. They got the last one that went through Julian's. They have theirs.
Shouldn't they have this one too, like the silver one?
No, this should be mine. This needs to be mine.
Are you serious?
I mean, at that starting bid, I mean, I have to be in the mix.
Sure, but let's be honest, that starting bid ain't gonna hold.
No, it's not gonna hold. But I mean,
so you're in.
Yeah, I mean, depending on how other things go, and there's stuff in day one that we've talked about and whatever. I think at some point, I think we'll have to do an episode on like, what are we doing with this auction?
Yeah, because I mean, when you get to the end here, you know, there's definitely a strategy here of day one versus day two.
Yeah, and it's nice that this is on day two because there is big stuff in day one and earlier in this.
Yeah,
I think this is the nice thing for me is this would be the last big thing for me in the auction. That I would be interested in. So if all other things sort of blew up or didn't pay out, I could go a little crazy here if I wanted to. But like, who could sneeze at this at even 3 times the estimate? You know.
No, I mean, if you told me, I mean, again, the beauty of an 80,000 starting bid on this to me is the equivalent of like starting it at $1 on some level. I don't mean in terms of mean in terms of like what money is worth to me. I just think this thing is very quickly, you know, in the multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars, and well, it should be. I mean, I don't know what to say. This is, when you heard the legend of Greg Jein, this is exactly what Greg Jein is supposed to have. I mean, I don't know how, you know what I mean? Like, it's like...
But I don't think anybody knew that he had it. I think it was like a rumored sort of thing. Did he have anything?
I'd heard the rumor.
Okay.
But, you didn't know, because obviously, Kubrick got rid of everything and blah, 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 blah. And I guess I just love that. It turns out, he did have one. I'm just staring at this. I mean, look at the helmet. I don't know what else to say. I keep staring at the helmet. It's so good. And it's so, like... You can look at what the astronauts were wearing in 1967, 1968, and you can sort of see, like, the just from a design standpoint, this sense of what do they think it will look like in 30 years in a great way. You know what I mean? Where it's sort of a connection, but God damn. I mean, I don't know. This is just incredible.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. And then, by the way, 404 62 set photos of reference stuff. So
there you go.
Enjoy that as well.
Go match it.
Yeah. By the way, with behind the scenes stuff of Kubrick, I mean, look at that. Look at some of those shots of just Kubrick on the set. I love that.
Yeah, leaning over the spacesuit.
Love that.
Looking into the pod from the outside.
So damn cool. I'll be very curious with some of these still sets, like, to what extent, like, there are pictures that, like, no one's ever seen, and to what extent some of these bulk lots, if people are smart and figure out either, like, get them for books or things for down the line. I mean, obviously, I think every one of these could be a book unto itself. Anyway, just incredible. I'm going to take it. I feel like I need a breath after 2001. I'm just going to go
cigarette.
Yeah, like a cleansing breath.
Should we just start smoking just for this purpose alone?
God damn you, Greg Jein. Bless you. I mean, I don't know what to say.
Respect.
Just incredible. Yeah. By the way, the little IBM logo on the
wrist thing.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Come on. Yeah.
It is earmarked, Dave.
Yep. Well, I will push you hard there too. In fact, it's a lot better than the Picard, by the way.
Yeah. No, I agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. It's just the question of, like, does it fit into my collection better?
It does.
It does. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. What do you, it's this or a fork. I mean, that this is the great 2001 conundrum. You know what I mean?
All respect
you have a
Sir
lot
Patrick
of forks.
Stewart.
It's time to.
I do.
Yeah. Holy shit. Oh man. Wow. We're now into Land of the Giants. I know nothing, so I'm going to just kind of breeze by them to 407.
To your stuff here, Dave.
Well, I mean, this is all great stuff. I don't know quite if I need any of it, but my God, a Charlton Heston Taylor flight suit with the ANSA, their NASA logo right from the get-go. Our pal Rob Klein said to me, he said he at some point had helped Greg sell off a whole bunch of Planet of the Apes stuff. And so he was laughing. He was like, I didn't realize he held some stuff back. Yeah. And I guess he did, which is just kind of great. And I guess very Greg Jein, that like whatever he got rid of, he of course still held on to. And by the way, it makes sense if you can think about this tailor suit kind of goes with the 2001 spacesuit. Like he liked NASA spacesuits and equivalents thereof, I guess. This is beautiful. It's in beautiful condition. It's just fantastic. And then he's got a couple of the various ape rifles, which are really fun. Yeah. And then he's got if you look at 410. This is the Guerrilla Soldier submachine gun, but it's a hero one, and you rarely see those, which I love. I mean, the background, the stunt rifles, which don't really have any moving pieces or parts. I have one of those. Those are around, and they're wonderful because of the design sort of thing they get. But the machine gun rifle, the wooden rifle, if you will, the wooden machine gun, which doesn't really make any sense, is kind of just kind of great. And I love that he has one of those. It's just pretty fun. So that's a really neat piece. Just bravo. And then we kind of get into a couple of the great sort of World War II movies. He's got a MiG miniature from Ice Station Zebra 412.
Very good.
These are like movies my dad loved, and I kind of saw a bunch of these. These are like these great World War II movies and stuff. And then 413, and there's a story about these, which I don't want to ruin the story. So I will say, make sure you check out, I don't know yet if it's episode 3 or episode 4, but it's sort of
a previous episode.
No, it's a later episode. We've recorded it previous. It's later.
Oh, okay. Got it. Yes.
Sorry,
yes. It's not Rob talking about it. Yes.
Right. No. This is Eves, John Eves, Greg's friend from ILM, tells this story about these Robert McCall Tora concept pieces, or at least I don't know if it's these or ones like this. These are just incredible. McCall, the incredible poster artist, these Tora pieces, just fantastic. I don't want to ruin the story, so check those out in our sort of Greg Jein the Man, or whatever we're calling it, episode or whatever, but that's coming up. But you'll hear a story about this. Gorgeous art, just gorgeous art, so really neat. 414 miniature missile and launch pad from City Beneath the Sea. Again, this is not stuff I know or love, but I love that miniature. I mean, you just can't. Cool. These miniatures are fantastic. Silent running patches, really, really cool. And then the pieces of the robots, Huey, Dewey, and Louie from Silent Running, really, really, really neat. And that's the movie.
Doug Trumbull film.
Yeah, and Silent Running, is that the one that I'm losing my own memory, where that's the one where Macquarie did some drawings for that, and then that's what Lucas saw. Anyway, I think I'm remembering my Macquarie book. Now we get to after the Kung Fu script collection. By the way, 100 plus scripts for Kung Fu.
The legend. Not the legend continues. The legend. Yes.
Right. If the strike continues, maybe one of the studios just buys this lot of scripts and then just remakes Kung Fu for the third time. Yeah. So that could happen. But we get to truly my favorite section of this entire auction, which I had no idea of, which it starts with 418, which is that the wonderful cult classic Flesh Gordon, the space age sex spoof that is out of this world. Planet porno bombards Earth with sex rays. Send for Flesh. And there's a note on the poster not to be confused with the original Flash Gordon. So Ryan, don't confuse us with the original Flash Gordon. I was very confused.
Now I'm no longer confused. Yeah.
Apparently Flesh Gordon was Greg Jein's first film and was credited as the effects technician, special miniatures construction. And there is a bevy of ships and pistols and various miniatures.
A whimsical space gun.
Yes. Whimsical space gun. Just penis and balls, just penis and balls. Yeah.
Again and again.
Yeah. Again and again and
large,
again. It's
small, miniature, full
one
size.
joke over and over and over. I salute the writers and producers and directors of Flesh Gordon.
Yes.
God bless you. God bless you, folks.
Well done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I guess, you know what? There's something to be said for Greg was not ashamed of his involvement, and he kept the miniatures. So I think that's pretty wonderful. Yeah. Pretty fantastic. 424, the model miniature from Dark Star, and another one that I'm going to basically say that John Eaves has a great story about.
Yes.
But this is a great piece to see. This is, again, early 70s, sort of pre-Star Wars, like post 2001, pre-Star Wars sci-fi,
like hard sci-fi, like used universe sci-fi, and like it's John Carpenter but with Dan O'Bannon and Ron Cobb, so there's a ton of like alien DNA in there, and like Ridley Scott DNA that led to like sort of Alien and Blade Runner, and like it's it's one of those movies that no one has kind of seen, but it's a feeder film for all these films that you do love from the late 70s and early to mid 80s. So
yeah, I believe
the
ship was designed by Cobb. I mean, this is just really cool, and it's a big miniature too. It's not small, by the way. 36 by 16 by 6. Yeah, kind of great looking. Planet Earth, I am not familiar with, so I apologize. Nice piece of Esteban Maroto Marvel art from Vampire Tales #5. Very beautiful.
Very kind of like Frazetta Wrightson sort of thing going on there.
He's a very talented artist, especially in that monster world. Really, really cool. This was a show, I think maybe we've talked about this. This was sort of for me, the rival to Star Trek in reruns, like in the late 70s, as when I was a kid. The stuff that like I would watch on weekends with my dad, Space 1999, which I hated as a kid. I have not seen it since. I know nothing. I can now certainly respect the hell out of these models, but as a kid, like I said, I just
it sort of passed me by. I missed it, but there is a ton of cool stuff, spacesuits and uniforms, and some no miniatures, but some props, I guess, from. Oh, there is a miniature right here.
No miniatures.
The
Inferno
Machine episode. Yeah, the Gwent sentient spacecraft.
I don't know what these ships are. I don't know how important they are.
Altaris,
but they're gorgeous. I mean, they are gorgeous.
I mean, incredible.
This is model making. I mean, I don't know, maybe kind of in its just real heyday.
And pure used universe too. I mean, really that kind of that aesthetic, that look, and that 2001 and Star Wars.
But look at these all just full on scratch built. I mean, just really gorgeous, just beautifully made, one after the other. Then a Martin Landau spacesuit 431.
Yeah, those are very cool.
Now they're like on the moon, and then the moon gets knocked out of Earth's orbit, and so they're in a ship, but they're on the moon, but the moon is traveling. Does that sound right?
I believe that's correct. Yeah.
Whole bunch of moon base alpha pieces. Look at this rocket pack rib, medical kit. Just costumes, very cool with the different colored sleeves, I guess, with the different rankings and whatnot. Really kind of neat.
Yeah.
Barbara Bain 437. That's a hero costume for Dr. Russell. I think that was Martin Landau's wife in real life, I believe. Right? Weren't they married? They were both in. Weren't they both in Mission Impossible? Also, I want to say. Maybe I'm odd memories. 438, some Matt Jeffries designs for War of the Worlds, the George Pal TV series Proposal. Very
which
cool
I guess never
looking.
Happened.
Yeah.
From 1975. Another 130 script archive
of just
Wonder
full
Woman
on
to the
just
Flash.
genre. Look at this. I see Wonder Woman scripts, Flash, $6 Million Man, Superboy, Shazam, Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., The Shadow, the Alec Baldwin Shadow. I mean, genre city. Just genre city. You put them right into your eBay store, Ryan. Just put them right in.
Very good. Thank you.
And then this is pretty cool now. We're hitting
442,
sort of
yeah.
a 442 starts the Logan's Run section. And this is stuff that was never really out there. I mean, this is just, I think maybe there's been a flame pistol or two, but look at this. Hero Pyrotechnic flame pistol, a full ensemble, the full outfit, the follower, which was the communications device. Were you a fan of the show? I know you played around with the movie at some time. Did you ever watch the show? Or just the original movie?
I watched the original movie a bunch of times, not watched the show. Read the book, which is actually really fascinating because the book is so much darker. The show, the movie kind of glossed things up. The book was very much just like, it was very like sort of clean through line, like detective on his last day of work. He's 21, but he's a hard boiled old Sam Spade. He's had enough and he's out. There wasn't he was joining the resistance and whatever. It was just a very much like, this is my last job and I'm out before they come and kill me too. And I really enjoyed the book in a big way. And Mars
almost
was
Blade
involved.
Blade Runner-esque a little bit?
Very much, very much. And I was trying to get them to go to a place where you go back to the book because it was just so hard boiled and fascinating, and it didn't have all the to me the kind of glossy problems that sort of plague the movie adaptation. Our friend of the podcast, Rob Klein, this always stuck with me. I think we talked about it particularly when I got the job. He was like, Logan's Run is the last science fiction film before Star Wars. And that's what killed that version of science fiction, because when Star Wars came out, you could never go back. You could not have made Logan's Run in 1978. It was made in 1976. So
did we ever talk about this? There's that movie based on the Michael Crichton. Did we ever tell this story on the show? There's that movie based on the Michael Crichton book about time travel, where it's like the scientific version of timeline, and they go back to like medieval times with knights and whatnot. Did you ever see the movie?
Yeah, it's terrible.
I remember the movie came out like right after Lord of the Rings or one of the Lord of the Rings movies.
That sounds
and
right.
So like medieval combat had been redefined by all of that just incredible, especially the giant armies fighting, you know what I mean? And then Timeline came out, and it was like 6 guys swinging swords, and I'm sure, I don't really remember, I'm sure there were other issues, but I just remember like, no, this is all changed. You can't just do fighting like this anymore. Now you need 2 armies. Anyway, that's really interesting. I mean, this stuff is fantastic. It's just, again, this again feels like one of these sections. If you're a Logan's Run guy, here you go.
It's your lucky day, because who's paying attention at this point? Because they're just reeling or bankrupt or possibly
a little bit late in day 2, but also here's everything you ever wanted. I mean, pretty much. Prop wise, again, it's like, where have these props been? Oh, here they are. This is where they are. This is why they have not been showing up. Here they are. So I love 447. This is poster concept artwork
for the Midway, which does look very Robert McCall, but it's not credited to him. So
it's not credited, but I wonder if it matches up with anything. But it is just gorgeous. It's just gorgeous. I'm jumping now to 449, which is just 150 key set and color photos from Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which Greg worked on, which is just kind of incredible. These next bunch of lots, he's got 4 scripts with various revisions and all sorts of markings
with the script
on
revisions
them.
Because he's breaking them down, and I mean that's real production ephemera. That's not just a script. That's like a script to somebody that worked on the show and would have broken it down and would have
really curious to kind of Greg was the chief model maker on it. I'd be very curious to see if these are his markings for like things he needed to build or just script changes and whatnot. Really fascinating. And then 451, which are special effects binders for Close Encounters, but also Indiana Jones and Temple Doom, and also The Abyss, and also Stargate. So I mean, just a wealth of just, again, production, copies, but just like storyboards and whatnot, just really, really fantastic. Just wonderful to see.
So cool.
And then I love these Close Encounter lots. He's got some ad paste ups. 452, 453 is a production maquette for the mothership.
The ship,
I mean, this is insane. Look at this. look at the work on that thing, on the
It's
maquette.
wonderful.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess, this is an earlier version, so obviously it changes a bit, but still you get to really see it.
You see the work and the development of it. Yeah. The Devil's Tower.
454. This is, I guess, from the mold, but by Greg from back in the day. So, I mean, this is as close as I think you're ever going to get.
That to me is like, yeah. I mean, it's not, and it should not pull a production used price, but just if you're a Close Encounters fan, there you go. I mean,
but by the way, the starting bid, $1,500.
Yeah,
$1,500. Exactly. I mean, so, I'll take that every day of the week for $1,500,
Yeah. I love this too. The 455, the Mayflower crew flight suit. I mean, it's not ascribed to a specific individual, but it's just so, memorable in terms of what it is. And it's such a great movie, and it's just hard to find things from that movie that are recognizable, that are a way to, commemorate the movie. And these things are all really great. Oh boy, Dave, here we go.
All righty. That takes us to 89457, the moment I've been both waiting for, dreading, masturbating, wow. all possibilities, all things are possible. The start of the Star Wars section. And here to help us land this 11-hour ship is our old friend, Gino Sabatino, a Star Wars expert extraordinaire. Gino, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing all right. How about you guys?
Fantastic.
Good to have you, Gino.
We're going to dig into the Star Wars section, and then of course, we're going to get to the reason Gino's here, but I won't quite say the reason quite yet as we turn the panel page by page of the catalog. Like the other sections of this catalog, this starts with approximately, this lot 89457, approximately 2,625 color camera transparencies from A New Hope. The pictures are both, I'm seeing behind the scenes stuff, shots of Joe Johnston, George Lucas, the model shop. Yeah. Some of these are pictures I've seen before, some maybe not. This is a reference bonanza. Gino, in your sort of, forgive me, I'll say line of work / hobby, because I never know if anyone actually ever pays you, but because I know we
Sometimes.
don't. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But assuming this
the checks always bounce when you send them.
Assuming this became a business, when you see this sheer amount of reference transparencies, photos, because 89457 is 2,600 of them. 89458 is 485 additional ones from Star Wars. Those look more like production shots, like screen grabs and whatnot.
Yeah.
Then 459 is 119 set and key set photos, they're calling it. Some of which, again, we've definitely seen publicity stills and whatnot. What does that mean to your brain, like those reference photos? Is that, like rare jewels, treasure? Like where do you come down on something like that?
Well, for me specifically, since I've been collecting this kind of reference for decades, it's very rare when I come across an image or something like that I haven't seen before or I don't already have. So you always kind of go through them all and just kind of, one will stand out. It's like, oh, I haven't seen that one before. And maybe like a small portion out of the whole bunch will be like golden nuggets, and then the rest of them it's like I've already seen. So whenever I see one that I haven't seen before, it's always super exciting. So
will it bother you that you have been sort of really in some ways spending your life gathering a collection of images, and then some schmuck comes along and bids on this and then just has everything you have plus like 4 you don't have? Will that drive you a little crazy?
Very crazy. Yeah.
25 of the 2,625 that Gino has never seen before, and it drives him insane.
It says right here in the catalog, lot 458, featuring 485 color transparencies and 2 that Gino's never seen. So I guess they know their audience.
Feels like an attack.
They'll come back and try to sell them to me after the auction now. Great.
I will say this just to anyone listening. I'm not sure I want to bid against anybody, but I am in if someone wants to kind of try and buy all of these and make me a set.
I make 2,625 scans.
As long as I don't have to do the scanning, I'm in. I think that's really my deal breaker. But I am
will
interested.
also throw my hat into that.
Yeah, I would love to have the reference. I have a lot of reference, probably not as much as you, Gino, but the idea of having more reference, which only helps later on, not in this auction, but in many auctions, it can only help with identifying things, down the line. And I think we're always, over the years, as like, whatever 1080 has gone to 4K and whatnot, we're constantly finding new screen matches that we didn't see before because of better photos, new photos, and higher quality. And I mean, that is the name of the game. And so I know it's pretty cool here just to see this many of the Star Wars things. 460 is a New Hope special effects binder. Again, these are Xeroxes of the storyboards, but really, really cool. All the different colors, a beat up old binder with an original Macquarie Star Wars yellow sticker on the front. This just reeks of history. I don't know, what else to say about it. I just, I love it.
And there's a chance that this is complete too, because it's 350.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
special effects.
You'd probably be able to tell if something was or wasn't missing, but still, boy, even if a couple are missing, it's just pretty darn great. And just to be able to, the Millennium Falcon, still called the pirate ship, and just sort of, because it was a work in progress in the best way possible. Anyway, I thought that was cool.
All of the shots from the special edition, unfortunately.
I will, if you win this, I will draw those in for you.
You should do that.
Yeah, I'll sketch them. I'm really terrible.
Yeah.
By the way, on White House Plumbers, I don't know if I ever told you this, I used to draw things for the production designer, and she always, God bless her, Anastasia White, so damn talented, but she always just really laughed at my drawing ability, which is just so terrible. And she kept one of the drawings, which was this thing I drew of this White House closet that had the tape recorders that were recording Nixon. It was something we shot and ended up not using in the final cut, but not because of my drawing. And she, at the end of production, as a wrap gift, she had my drawing framed and gave it back to me.
Very good.
It's so terrible, and not like in an enjoyable way. It's just really awful. The fact that, like, I feel like it's like that scene in Stonehenge where it's like, you gave me this, that's why Stonehenge is 6 inches tall. Like, if at any point she would have just said, here's the 6-inch room you ordered. But anyway, wherever that fits in.
There's a metaphor in there, Dave, for when people hand us scripts to read. But
I guess so,
I will not plumb that depth right now.
461, we've got shooting scripts from Empire, an early file copy of Star Wars, and a shooting script from Return of the Jedi.
Very cool.
Nice chance to get scripts. These look like they've got markings on them, both in terms of, like, it looks like they're numbered, for like the do not Xerox of it all, I guess. And I don't see any annotation, so I'm not sure they were anybody's working scripts, but scripts nonetheless.
Looks like the Jedi one might have some annotations.
Jedi has some markings? Okay. Your eyesight is much better than mine.
Not ascribed to anybody, but
very cool. 462, some advertisement paste ups, very neat, using the some of, I should say, I think, is that the John Berkey art, some of which was, I think, the third one was used for the record album poster, and I think one of these finished ones was used for the novelization, and it looks like they were just playing around with them for the poster art, so that was kind of neat. And Gino, here's why we woke you up in the middle of the night, or Ryan, your morning, which is long rumored. Let's start with that. And the rumors are true. Lot 463.
The legend is true.
Original screen matched complete hero Imperial Stormtrooper costume from Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. Let's just jump into it. I think this is Gino, let's just start with accolades. Best one you've ever seen?
Oh my God, this thing is glorious. like it is just glorious. I've been very, very fortunate enough to see most of the existing Stormtrooper costumes that exist, and none of them compare to this, like, not even close. Like, this is the most complete costume I've ever seen. It's the best conditioned costume I've ever seen. It's like, if ever, like, they ever needed more Stormtroopers, like, this is the one that would, like, make all the other ones. It's like,
Yeah.
It's amazing that it still exists.
And the helmet's one of the best helmets, right? Because we'll get into it, but it's a hero helmet.
Yeah.
Before we do, obviously we are going to get into it. What I sort of find fascinating here, and again, sort of long rumored, I guess a couple of years ago, and Gino, you were involved with this, I guess, which is Greg Jein allowed this costume, allowed this stormtrooper to be, was it molded or scanned or both or whatever for one of the replica costumes? Is that it? Is that it right there? Okay.
That's it. Yeah.
So we kind of knew it existed, which was fascinating only because in the Greg Jein, what's the word I'm looking for, sort of mythos there was always this idea that he didn't like Star Wars, or just was not, he was a Star Trek guy, not a Star Wars guy. And when we found out he had the trooper, it made sense, obviously, because it was just like he was a student, if you will, a collector of film history, and it just didn't seem like he couldn't not have a key piece from Star Wars. But he, and obviously he did, but I always sort of found that fascinating. Gino, jump in anywhere. Let me start with, you actually got to talk to Greg a little bit about it.
Well, actually, before I ever saw this, like, I was introduced to the fact that he had a helmet. I didn't know that he had the whole costume. And I've had, so
by the way,
times
that makes me laugh always, because it's so prop collectory to just sort of like the need to know basis of like, eventually they're going to have no choice but to tell you there's a whole costume. But of course, at first they're just telling you, Gino, that there's a helmet. They're going to go as they're going to put it out there as like as little as possible, and
it totally did. It got worse. So, so first, over the years, people would come and say, I think I've got a hero Stormtrooper helmet from A New Hope. And like, since they only made 6 and we never seen one at this point in time, I'm like, yeah, it's probably a Return of the Jedi style. Cause they're like, it's white plastic. And it's like, well, you just probably don't know what you're looking at. It's probably a Return of the Jedi helmet. Those are pretty common. And when I first got a picture sent to me of this helmet, I only
called you and told you that like 7 times. I promise. It was only 7 times. Yeah.
Have you learned your lesson?
Not really.
So when I saw the picture,
a Return of the Jedi helmet than a Don Post mask, which also happens. So
yes, I know the number of times it's like Don Post masks, and like if you've ever seen those like large size reprints of like Detective Comics 27, but they're like treasury size, and people call comic book stores all the time like, I've got a $10 million comic book, and it's like you've got a $1.79 comic book. Anyway,
yeah, if I had a $1.79 for every time that happens. So anyway, so when I saw the picture for the first time, like I crapped my pants. Like, I was like, oh my God, like it really is a hero helmet. And I knew exactly which one it was. And I was just like freaking out. Right. So, and then it wasn't until much later that I found out that there was the rest of the costume with it, but I just thought it was the armor. So I had no idea that it had like everything, at the time. So, I mean, it had
the boots, the holster. That is, pretty,
and like
pretty incredible.
Stuff that we had never seen before, like even like they have like an off the shelf women's belt. It's like a real thin, like 3/4 inch-ish or so, like black leather belt, super unassuming looking, that they just pulled off the shelf, but that's what they use to hold up the thighs on the costume. And like, we never seen that before. There's none in the archives. Like, no one has this. It's like, oh my God, like that's so incredibly rare. And it's amazing that it's intact with this costume. So, yeah.
So which one, tell us which one this is. I mean, this is all in the catalog, but you were sort of responsible. You helped Heritage sort of you identified it and let Heritage know. So take us through it. What is this bad boy? And also sort of like, tell us where it was also used and why, and sort of, why probably it ended up in the greater Los Angeles area.
Yeah. It's a crazy story. So, apparently what happened was, and I think I talked about this last time when we talked about the Stormtrooper in the other episode or whatever, but I'll just reiterate it again. So at the end of filming New Hope in England, they needed to do pickup shots at ILM for some shots. And they were instructed to go out and at that time, all the costumes were horribly damaged and in just such really bad condition at this point. They were like, we'll go through all the costumes and pull out your best 2 costumes. And so they literally dug through them and pulled out the best 2 examples that they could find, and then sent them over, and then they used them for like pickup scenes, like where Joe Johnston is like the space trooper, where he's like waving the Millennium Falcon into the like hangar bay or whatever. And then I think that's the only time it was like used for those pickup shots. The rest of the filming was in England, but then it just kind of stayed in the States after that. And so like it was just kind of used for whenever they needed a trooper. So like when they did the Star Wars Holiday Special, it was one of those troopers. When they did like a Donnie and Marie Christmas special, like it was on that. It was one of the troopers that was at the Oscars when they like had the ceremony and all that. So it's just amazing the history of this trooper, where it got around, and how it's so connected to the history of the first film. It's just all over the place.
The movie itself is incredible, but obviously there's something about the Star Wars, the holiday special, the Donnie and Marie, and then of course the walking on to the Oscar stage, which is pretty.
It's so 70s,
yeah,
you know.
It's very 70s, but also, I mean, it speaks to the specialness of, I don't know, just I love it that much more, if that's at all possible.
And then just the fact that, like, you know, out of all the troopers that they made, and like I think, even though the specs they had placed orders for like 50 of them, I think they only actually ended up producing about 30 or under, or just right around there. So the fact that of all the troopers, this was like one of the best looking ones that they made for the whole thing, and it's still alive, and it's still intact, and it's together. It's mind blowing, you know, to me.
Yeah.
Like I sent a couple like photos that kind of like show it like in the movie, like in some key places.
Yeah.
And like this trooper is like incredibly like featured throughout the whole movie. So like initially you see him, he's one of the troopers that's like walking Princess Leia down the Tantive when they go to bring her to Darth Vader. So he's like there in frame with Carrie Fisher the whole time.
He's with Carrie Fisher the entire time, and then I think he kind of ends up over like Vader's shoulder, basically.
He
like
walks,
just there.
Walks around the corner. It's one continuous shot. He walks around the corner and then stands like right next to Darth Vader. So like in one frame of the movie, he's standing like arm's length with Darth Vader, and then right next to Carrie Fisher. You know, and it's like,
love that.
Like that's incredible. You know,
It's so great.
And then like one of the other scenes is like when Han and Luke and Leia are running through the Death Star, and they kind of turn the corner, and then they run into stormtroopers, and one of the stormtroopers is like, "It's them, blast them!" It's like he's that guy.
He's that guy too. Wow, wow, that's excellent.
Which if you see when he puts when Bart puts that graphic in, you'll see at the bottom like put little circles around which one, you know.
Yeah,
just
sent
pretty
a
cool.
very helpful pictorial here.
Please take a look, because none of our guests ever do jack shit, but Gino does. So God bless you, Gino.
Hey man, it's all about graphics and imagery. Like I'm always going to come with pictures.
Well, I am just going to say I was very pleased, because at Comic-Con, when we were sort of figuring out that they were going to be our sponsors and whatnot, I was very honored and proud, Gino, to be able to, Ryan and I both were able to kind of basically go, you guys need to talk to Gino about this helmet and costume. It was like nobody knows more about it than him. And
I told him that you were an Imperial Stormtrooper. So,
but I'm just having gotten to see the sort of variations, the different iterations of the catalog as they've worked on it. We got to see sort of earlier versions. The current write-up with your input and your specifics have made this pretty damn incredible,
and so much more expensive.
Yeah, exactly. Although, by the way, I mean, a starting bid of $200K for a full suit is pretty.
Pretty great.
That's basically the helmet price. So again, that's
not even the helmet price.
Yeah. I guess so.
Even if it was just the helmet going, it's like, you kidding me? It's like
the hero helmet.
One of 6. There's only 3 that exist that we know of, and one of the most prominent ones, like it's like a $500,000 helmet by itself, in my opinion, let alone like with the rest of the costume. So,
probably, yeah.
In my opinion,
without betraying anything that's untalkable about on a podcast, do you know how Greg came into possession of the Stormtrooper costume?
I mean, I didn't get specifics, but I
technically speaking, though, you cannot you cannot libel the dead. I mean,
no, like
it wouldn't be libel. It would just be it would just be exposing
I guess
some skeletons. Yeah.
Well, I mean back then in like, you know, the late 70s and early 80s, like he got this like right after like 78 or 79 or something like that, I think. So Back then, like, this stuff wasn't worth all this money, and people, those prop guys, they just traded this stuff amongst themselves. Like, it seems like crazy to us. That's like, oh my god, this iconic costume, or like Kirk and Spock's costumes and all these different things. Like, back then they were cool, but like now it's like, they're worth all this money. But back
they
then,
obviously had no idea.
Yeah, it was just like, oh hey, you've got a Spock costume. I'll trade you this. I've got a Stormtrooper from Star Wars. I'll take that
from the Donnie and Marie
off
show
you or whatever. And exactly. And then they just swap.
When you were molding it and whatnot, did you got to meet Greg at some point in there, and you got to at least talk to him a little bit about whether it was Star? What do you remember?
Well, basically the story I just told you, like the history of like where it came from, and that he got it like right after the show and all that, and he's had it this whole time. And I mean, when it was presented to me, not to speak anything about Greg, because he's super great guy and he's super nice to me and all that, but handed me a black garbage bag with this Stormtrooper costume in it. And I opened up this black garbage bag, and it's like, is this for real? Like, it's in here?
That's so great.
That's okay, cool, all right. It was pretty dirty. I mean, like just like dust, not like
right.
Like anything intrusive or anything like that.
In defense of the black garbage bag, it kept it from yellowing pretty good. That's something.
Yeah, I mean, it did. I mean, there's some yellowing going on.
Yeah, of course.
Compared to others, I mean, it was still just like so well preserved. And I mean, who knows how long it was in that garbage bag? I mean, it's been in there for 30. Like,
I guess it is possible that he actually didn't like Star Wars, but.
Well, I mean, if anything's
he felt the need to own it. Here's what I know he loved: Star Trek and garbage bags. That's what I know about Greg Jein. I never met him, but I'm pretty sure that's what he loved. Well, at least he had it in a garbage bag. I mean, I guess it could have been so much worse.
It was a nice garbage bag. I mean, it was
top shelf.
But I will speak to this, and again, this is not criticism, but I'll throw this in here, and just to be really clear, this is me, David, not Gino, saying this. One of the things, and again, I think they're still, they're literally just still finding stuff. Greg just had so much stuff, and from talking to like various guys that knew him, he had, sometimes he would store things and other things and whatever. And years ago, and this is now going back years, the actual undersuit for this sucker actually existed, which is the black undersuit did exist. And that, unfortunately, somewhere along the way, it got separated. And it's not that it's in a different lot. It just doesn't exist anymore. And it's not, we don't think no one stole it or anything crazy like that. I just think somewhere along the way, it just got separated, which would have made the best suit ever maybe even that much better. But still the best suit ever. But anyway, it is what it is. The rubber gloves were there at some point. Yeah. I've seen old photos, of it like laid out on a table, and the undersuit was there and the black gloves were there. And I'm thrilled.
The neck seal.
Right, the neck seal. I'm thrilled the belt exists. The belt made it. The little whatever dance belt, Sansa belt. I don't know what the hell you call it. I'm thrilled the belt made it. I'm thrilled that the holster made it, just because these are things obviously.
Holster's beautiful.
Yeah, the holster, I mean, I'd bid on that alone, which is pretty incredible. Yeah,
that's so cool. Well, speaking of bidding, where does speculating, where does this end? Where does
I know
this
what
one go?
I've from the very. I mean, so I first got my hands on that costume, like when we molded it, and the whole thing was like back in like 2013, I think. So it was like 10 years ago. And I, even back then, before all this stuff went for crazy money, I was like, if this ever goes to auction one day, or he decides he wants to sell it or whatever, like that's like a $2 million costume right here. Like, I've never seen anything like this. Like, I mean, there are so many amazing epic items that come every now and then, but maybe it's like a helmet or whatever, but a complete costume from head to toe like this is unheard of.
Even the guys,
it's unprecedented. I don't think there's anything from.
Yeah, I mean, I have, and Gino actually is the one who I think we've said this already, helped me do my display. I have most of a costume, but a random assortment of pieces with a screen matched stunt helmet, not a hero helmet, a great one, but again, a different horse.
I love your costume,
and I love mine too. And I have, I pieced together. I got boots later on and whatnot, and mine is, it's good, but it's one of these funny things where you're looking at this and just going, boy, this makes mine look like shit. There's really no other way of saying that. Yeah,
I can't. I would never say that.
I'm as a guy with a Stormtrooper helmet with just the helmet with half the paint missing. It makes me feel pretty bad too. But
no, it's emasculating. It's an emasculating costume. I mean,
whoever wins this costume at auction, I just make sure that they let me build the display for it. That's all I care about. Like, I want to make sure it's like I offered when Greg had it. I offered to build a display for him because I couldn't. It was breaking my heart that it was just set in this garbage bag, because even when we gave it back to him, it's just back in the garbage, so it's like it just broke my heart. That's like
I saw your drawings for the display you were going to make for Greg, and it was gorgeous. It was a giant box that looked like and it said Glad bag on it, and then out of it came this big garbage bag, and then out of the garbage bag was the Stormtrooper. It was some of your best work ever. I really liked it. Yeah,
thank you.
I really loved it.
Yeah.
Look, if anyone is interested, and I'll split the lot, they can have the garbage bag and I will take the costume if anyone is interested.
Just like the transparencies.
Well,
very good.
I wouldn't want to see anything get split up on this though, so I would really.
You feel like the garbage bag needs to stay with it?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay, I get that. Be careful out there, by the way, people, because there are a lot of people selling what can I say, copycat fake garbage bags. Like they'll show you a black garbage bag and they'll say this is a Greg Jein garbage bag, and it isn't. It
probably was a vintage garbage bag. It was probably like a 1978 garbage bag.
It was a 1977 British garbage bag.
There was wear on it. You
really did not think George Lucas was doing a great job directing.
Be aware.
It really
there's a lot of garbage out there
for him, and the garbage bag was really surprised when the movie turned out well. And then later the garbage bag was given half a point, and then George Lucas bought the points back. So anyway, the garbage bag has a very incredible, beautiful history.
Well, the good news for you, Dave,
this is
insane. I'm sure that this is the best Star Wars thing in the catalog, and there's nothing else
news,
to worry about.
This is exactly it. This is the one and only Star Wars piece that Greg had. Or
hold on. This bothers me. Like, okay, I understand that all this stuff is going to go down in the auction because it's Greg's stuff, but the fact that this is in the auction at the same time as the other item is.
No, it's like,
madness. Are you kidding me?
But by the way,
kidding me?
And that's just Star Wars. Again, we've been doing this now for like 11 days.
16 days,
The Star Trek stuff alone, and you don't have to be a Star Trek person. Like, Captain Kirk is like on like postage stamps. You know what I mean? And like, it's just like, it's insane, the stuff. I mean, it just true madness.
Thank you, Gino.
I am... dying to see this. I can't wait to see this in person. Anything else to add on it, Gino, before we move on to the next mysterious lot?
Only if you wanted to like reference the other images of the hero helmets that I sent you guys, just to kind of show like the specialness of this particular hero helmet compared to the other known ones that we have. Like, there's a couple graphics that just kind of show it in the film next to the others and what those other ones look like today, because there's only 3.
Just in terms of the condition of the other 3. There's basically there's the Luke hero and the Lucasfilm Archive hero. Right. And the whiteness of this one, the sharp, I mean, I don't know, to me it's just a no-brainer, but anything else you want to call out?
It's 100% complete, has all its bits, like it's in such fantastic condition. I mean, the yellowing is minimal. I mean,
it looks like a replica. I mean, in the best of ways. Yeah,
almost,
it's right on the edge of being too good. If it wasn't for the garbage bag, I'm not sure I'd recognize it. Yeah, no, it's pretty insane. And normally I would be stopping here, but there's a next lot. ... Lot 89464, screen matched hero, red leader, in quotes, open parentheses, red 1, close parentheses, X-Wing starfighter filming miniature with articulating servo-controlled wings and lights from Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. Fuck me. This is the craziest thing I ever saw, possibly the craziest thing I will ever see, especially in an auction. You all know what I think about X-Wings. You all know that is the piece I've been trying to find. You all know I bid and lost and suffered severe mental depression after the Pyro loss of the X-Wing at Prop Store. Holy crap. To talk about this piece and to let everyone know how terrible it is and why they should not bid on it, we are bringing in a model expert. I don't even know what his title would be if he has a title. We're bringing in our friend Jason Eaton. And I should point out, Jason, I'm really sorry. I apologize. Ryan ate some bad curry or something and had to run to the men's room, but he should be back. But he's in the toilet. We think he's okay. He's texting. So I may read some of his questions to you, but he is in the toilet. So just FYI, okay?
Yeah.
Jason,
do
you have a title? Do you have a title? What are you?
Model maker, artist, whatever. Sure.
I should point out that Probot behind you, which I'm assuming you built, because it would be funny if you had someone else's work behind you, is pretty badass.
Right. Yeah. Yes, I built that. That's the Ralph McQuarrie painting concept probe droid. Yeah.
God
sound
bless.
And lights, but I am doing you a kindness and I turned the sound off.
Well, I appreciate that, but I love the lights. I love the movement. And you have, let's just to give everyone a sort of a sense. And I look at your stuff all the time because you're always building stuff from scratch. Just wonderful, wonderful replicas. I don't know what else. Is that the word? Is that we use that word technically?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Unless it's something that's never been built, and then I just say it's an original, but it's all derivative of an IP. So
Gotcha. So when you're building, for example, like if you build a Macquarie concept piece, technically it's not a replica because it only maybe existed in art form. But yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. Right. And I love, by the way, but I love that you do those Macquarie pieces. And and I was just going to say, but you've also, because you are so good and you have such an understanding of the Star Wars stuff especially, but you've also done model restoration. You've worked with collectors on pieces that they have in their own collection, and you've also helped people bringing stuff to market, right? Did you help Jeff Mann with that piece a couple of years ago, a year ago or so? Yeah. That was the Y-Wing. Which was
it was the pattern from Return of the Jedi,
the original pattern. Yes, exactly.
Half the original pattern from '76, which was pretty trippy to discover.
Jeff had basically grabbed and restored. Didn't know what it was, but had kind of held on to it because he thought it was cool and it was getting thrown out.
It was neat. Yeah, he rescued it literally from Wesley Seed's trash pile and put it in a closet for 40 years and then said to me, hey, let's build it up. And I was like, why don't we restore it? I can always make a Y-Wing later.
Right.
And then as we got deeper, we realized it was a little more special than anybody knew.
Well, those are some fantastic, what's the word? Bona fides, I believe, for discussing this. Yep, exactly. We wanted to have you on here. We obviously, I wish I could say to you, we didn't know this was a surprise. The surprise for me on this X-Wing came a while back because, it's a couple of things. Number one, Greg was known not to be a Star Wars fan. I should start somewhere. You knew Greg a little bit? A little bit. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I met him years ago through Gene Kazicki when I was restoring the McKinley station for Adam Schneider. And then, I met him and saw him every year at parties or, the Bake Off or whatever.
Right.
Just like the nicest guy on the planet, like he was just so lovely. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you this just because I was I was curious about this, which is, did he ever look at anything you built and offer any advice or criticism or anything? Did he ever, anything where he ever said to you, like, try a thinner brush, or I don't know. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I try not to pester these guys too
much,
of course,
that
kind of stuff. But when I was working on the McKinley, I tried to get as much information about this model.
You kind of were keeping him in the loop a little bit.
Yeah, and he was very giving. He said, "I don't have much on it, but here's a couple photos. Here's some blueprints," and then. I said, I found a piece of tape that you guys missed pulling off on the Aztecing, and he laughed. He's like, who cares? He's not precious about that kind of stuff.
Right.
Here I am agonizing, like, should I leave it or take it off? And, like, whatever.
Did you leave it or take it off? What did you do? Did you leave it or take it off?
I asked Adam what he wanted, and Adam said, take it off. So, it looks
See, I would have left it. I'm sorry. We can agree to distree. Ryan says from the bathroom, he would have left it too. Ryan said from the bathroom, he would have left it.
The other thing, there was the Starfleet logo was a black and white Xerox. And I said, do you want for your replica, for the restoration, do you want it black and white or do you want color? And he's like, let's go color. And I took the 12-volt neon death out of it and put LEDs.
Sure, yes, of course, yeah.
A couple of concessions.
Yes, well, that feels like, again, that feels like, so that you don't burn it or melt it to the ground. So that's not a bad thing. Yeah. Well, okay, so Greg was a Star Trek guy. And
yes.
And it's a funny thing, and this was my version of it, but you tell me your version, which is to say, at some point a couple of years ago, I knew and heard he had the full Stormtrooper. And I never knew about this X-Wing until, sadly, after his death. Not that it would have mattered in terms of collecting-wise, but I just never heard about this. This was something that I guess was whatever box and, double secret probation. I'd never heard a word about this. But it always sort of made me confused that he was such his collection was so model based and such a model fan. Like in my mind, it was always like, and this is such a horrible thing to say, I wonder when he sort of one day dies or goes to sell everything. I wonder if there's another Star Wars piece in there because he's such a model fan. And by the way, not with any specific sense of, it's going to be an X-Wing. But when this thing was revealed, obviously it's incredible for what it is. And we'll get into that in 3 seconds. But it was just like, this makes perfect sense to me that he at least had one, that he had to have one.
Yeah. I think he may have had even more over the years and stuff.
Oh, fascinating.
You like, we're never going to know, which I love. But I mean, from my perspective with especially weirdly Red One, that's always been a little bit of my white whale. Like, it's the model that we have always assumed.
I was about to say, let's just for, I think the hardcore guys may know this and the others don't, which is this has been rumored to be out there somewhere. Is that a fair way of saying it?
Yes. Yeah. Very fair way of saying it.
I think that's a great way that neither you nor I will go to prison. Ryan might. Ryan is not here at the moment. He's in the bathroom. And so what he knows and when he knew it, we don't know. But
I didn't see him not deny it. Right. Yeah. It all kind of makes beautiful sense. It's kind of funny because he didn't really like Star Wars the way he likes Star Trek, and the thing sat in a box for over 40 years in a garage. It did us all an incredible service because the thing's been preserved. If it had stayed, if it potentially hadn't been the one that walked, it would have been pressed into service in other Star Wars movies.
They might have painted it green for the prequels or something,
Yeah, it would look like Red 3 today. It would be pretty ratty. Yeah, and sort of tan and kind of crappy, and got used.
We were laughing talking about the Stormtrooper that basically it's in such good condition because, basically he kept it in a garbage bag all these years. So in some ways, that garbage bag and the cardboard box that this thing was in are the MVPs of prop preservation in some ways.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. And the whole thing, I'll tell you my journey of this.
Please.
Very quickly. So, as a model nerd and as a obsessive with the X-Wings, this was the only one that I didn't have really good reference on. There were like 5 or 6 pictures, nothing of the bottom. The underside, they've always angled it just so, or if there's an underside shot, it's blurry. Drove me to madness.
Quick little question: Have you ever built one, or no? Because you didn't have the right reference. Have you ever tried making one?
A red one? I'll get to that in a sec.
Oh, keep going. Yeah.
I waited. I held off because I was like, it's too much conjecture, and I got other fish to fry at the moment. I was thinking I'd get to it one day and do a best guess.
Sure.
But funny enough, that changed a little. So November 5th was the date of a trip I was going to take to Los Angeles, when Gene has a little get together, Gene Kazicki, every year with a whole bunch of people. And I had a colonoscopy the weekend before. And I was like, you know what? This is a little too much all at once. I'm just going to delay my LA trip to January. And wouldn't you know it, that Saturday that I was supposed to be there was the day this thing percolated to the surface. So I'm sitting on my couch, minding my own business, and I get a FaceTime on my phone, which I don't normally get, and it's Gene. And I'm like, oh, man, I wonder if he's going to tease me, because I'm not there. And I swipe it, and I see a cardboard box with a sea of peanuts and an X-Wing coming out, and clearly they're in someone's backyard in LA somewhere, and Gene is going, oh, Jason, hey, look what, and he hangs up. And I can tell it's Red One. He reveals enough, and it's just very distinctive. It's so burned into my brain. And I'm now like getting sweaty and sort of going out of body, because I'm like, oh, Christ.
Well, that could have been the colonoscopy, but go on, please. Yeah.
Well, it could have. Yeah. Oh, that was pretty steady after that. But yeah, so, he waits a beat and then calls me back. And it was so lovely that he ropes me in, like right after they pull it out of the box. And apparently it had been a situation where they were finding cardboard boxes. This is like, we're sort of scraping the back of the garage at this point. We're not going to find anything. That's the mindset. They're finding cardboard boxes with like old bubble wrap in it and nothing else.
Sure. And nothing else.
But the acting's like right at the very end, like, the like in a movie. And so Gene and Rob McFarland and Bill George and Lou Zudavern were the gang that I could have been a part of. And they, were like, holy cow, look at this. And Gene just let me sort of watch the first like 5 minutes of them sort of, confirming that it is what it is.
Right, turning it, looking at it, whatever.
Yeah. Flip it over and see if there's a threaded rod, like all that kind of nonsense. And and so I've been living with this since November 5th of last year.
Oh, well, you've done a fantastic job of like sort of not bursting from secret telling. So that's pretty good. Bravo.
Yeah. I'm very pleased with myself. But it's a pretty grave secret to keep. So I mean, like when I'm under a Disney NDA, I tend to stick to the NDA.
Sure. No, of course. But, well, let's dive into a little bit of why this is so terrible and why people shouldn't bid on this thing. So we previously talked about the previous X-Wing, the one that I lost out on, was a Pyro. And I think it's important to kind of know for the audience, the difference between a Pyro and this, which, we're calling the screen matched hero. The screen match is super important, but the hero in this case is super important. And the thing that obviously, let's just start number one, is obviously the Pyros were meant to be blown up. So let's start with that. So they're made in a certain way. But let's just talk about this hero and what makes it a hero and what is so spectacular to you. And by the way, and this again was the reason I sort of wanted to have you on, I think it speaks to also not just why it's better than the Pyro, but to me in this model, in this hero model, is everything that was incredible and innovative about the original Star Wars movie, the Dykstra cam, everybody working on it, the teams, the ILM guys, or at that point, the early days of ILM, whatever you want to call it. But it is in a nutshell in this miniature. So go have at it.
Okay. All right. So I have a little show and tell here.
I love it.
The difference between a hero and a Pyro would it's so apples and oranges to us. But a hero, this is a unused hero shell that is warped from being in storage. But this is a good show and tell on what we're talking about as a baseline. And this was originally carved from wood. It was molded and cast in resin. It's about 4 or 5 millimeters thick. There's bracing for a metal armature that would have gone on here. It would have ridden on a metal armature. And the bottom was vacuum-formed styrene. So those are the key quick things about a hero. And when they needed to make Pyros, and also notice that this is a top. So there's a top and a bottom, and the nose is completely separate. It was a separate assembly. So they made Red 1, 2, 3, 5. They made 4 heroes essentially. Blue 1 became red 2. So
Okay.
all the noses are going to be slightly different. We're talking millimeters, but to me that's miles. Based on who crammed the part on and how they cut the front.
Right.
I mean, it's very loosey-goosey. To make the master pattern for the pyro, Dave Jones, who sadly is no longer with us, but I talk to him for hours about this kind of stuff every year, poor guy. He assembled a hero shell, top, bottom, stuck a nose on it, rescribed all these panel lines so that they were now set, put little paper, styrene chip detail on it, which set it for every pyro. So every hero has different panel lines, different chips. Yeah, everybody's different. And then he took it to a saw and cut it down this way, so that their thinking was the weight of the wings would sort of help pull it apart,
help it blow apart when they put the charge in it. Yes.
Yeah. So that's what you get out of that mold, and this is very thin, very fragile foam. This is an unused pyro shell from '76, and you can see how deep the panel lines are. You can see, everything's put in and locked in. And if you hold it up,
I was just going to say, it's all there, and then it is that incredible painting, that hand painting, that makes it look so much better than it is. I'm talking about the pyros, basically. They are painted to mirror the heroes, but they are not. So yes.
And you can see even on this one, the nose is a little further down. So all pyros, by definition, are a little shorter and a little thinner. And they're lovely models, and like we know, there's one in that was sold at auction. They most of them were blown up. So
I have pieces, as do many people. I have half a fuselage and 2 parts of wings. Exactly.
And so these heroes, because they're so the pyro castings and castings of castings got out into the wild. Icons used I think a second gen. McCune Studio had their own molds that they pulled from that. So those have been sort of in the fan base zone for almost 40 years probably. But heroes never got out. We never got our hands on them. Right. So funny enough, there was a Maxi Brute, I think it's SD's model rocket that came out in the 70s. That's eerily good to a hero.
Really? Maybe they went over and did measurements or something like that. Oh, fascinating.
Yeah, it's kind of wild.
That's, by the way, that's the usual story of how pieces go missing. It's like, there's a hero that went over to Estes and never came back, sort of the old Don Post story.
Totally
Yeah. Let's also talk for a second. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to jump you around, but to me, the part of this that's so incredible, of course, are the wings. I hope I'm not skipping over too much and go back to anything you want to go back to.
No,
but the wings and their ability, and how does one else? I don't know quite. Maybe there's a technical term for it, but their ability to open is what makes this thing the greatest thing in the world, basically.
It's the sexiness. As a replica model maker, that has also been a goal that I have hit finally after years. These wings, there's a metal armature scissor action with 2 motors, but a single toothed gear, which you can see if you look at a certain direction. You can see it through the hole where the wing root is. And the wings are on the heroes, scratch built out of machined acrylic and styrene. So the one I made, when it closes, I put magnets in the wing tips just to be fancy. But that snap, that's like, it's such a rush. There's nothing like it, because to get that even in a commercial model kit, they never really quite close all the way. And it's funny, if you look at Red 3 in the archives, there's little set screws that they sort of
clearly that they were to make sure it closed. That's funny. I mean, to me,
if you talk to any of the guys, they were problematic. The whole thing was just like hard to work.
And I'm not talking about props for a second, but I'm talking, I guess, about nostalgia. But anybody, so many prop collectors have come, such as myself, out of the toy world. And so obviously we all had our Kenner X-Wing. And of course, the greatest thing about that Kenner X-Wing was pressing R2 and those wings popping open, because that moment in the film. And again, I think on some level, maybe at that point, I'm sure my first time through, I didn't know they were miniatures, but eventually very quickly I learned, because that's when I started reading Starlog and all that kind of stuff. And, we learned these were miniatures, and it's one thing to have a miniature kind of go vroom, you know what I mean? And go, vroom and vroom. But that moment of like wings opening and closing, it's just like, whoa, these are, they're more than miniatures. Yeah. They're alive. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that these guys were just figuring it out, that this is like George wanted it to open. And so they figured out how to make them open and close. I mean, that's how it worked. Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you look at the heroes, you kind of don't really realize this, because whenever they go on tour, whenever you see photos of them, they really had to cut channels into the lower body. If you were looking at the bottom shell, there's really thick cutouts to allow that sort of scissor hinge.
Oh, to give it the room for it. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it was very kludged. And Red 1 has that, and Red 5 has that. The Red 5's body is AWOL at the moment. Hopefully that gets found one day. But Red 3 also has it, and I don't think people realize it, because when the wings are open and those Saturn rocket parts of the engine sort of rotate, it hides that. And I love that.
God, I love that too. I like also that it has that's, I guess there's like, probably, I guess that's the angle you don't want to shoot your X-Wing at, I guess, basically. You don't want to be sort of,
And if you're looking for it when it's flying with the wings closed, if they're not like an Empire, especially if they're not using an off the shelf like AMT or MPC kit, it's angled in a way from, above. They're not going to show it from below. They want to show, that Luke's flying or whatever. So it sort of banks in a very particular way. And I'm like, I think that's probably why, there's lots of stuff on this that nobody really knows about. Like, if you take the nose cone off, the front section of the nose is a plug for a mount. They were front mounted, for that shot you were talking about, where their wings
they're
open
from
up
behind. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And there's a photo of Richard Edlund mugging with them mounted on the nose of the Red 1 and Red 5, I think from the trench, or from the Death Star approach. Really, really cool to sort of like realize what's going on. If you take that nose off, you not only see the metal of the armature, for the mount, but there are 6 connections for the electrical,
for the lights,
and those are also on the sides, right behind the cockpit, on the upper shell, and there's 5 that you see, and then the 6th one's usually hidden by the little mount cover that's a plate from a Hummel kit for those at home who want to play along. But if you hooked up if you knew the voltage, you could hook it up and the thing would probably still smoke or do something. But that would work.
Preferably not smoke and or melt. But yes, exactly.
That would work the motors. And I theorized that, to do it one way, you just, if you want to undo the motion, you just switch the polarity of the motor. I'm not entirely sure about, like, maybe there was one positive and the rest were negative, or vice versa.
That's interesting that we're not sure if one was built to go one way and the other the other. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I have because I wanted to figure that out. That's the last sort of frontier with this, and it's not terribly interesting. It's interesting to me, but it doesn't really inform how I would, approach a build. So it doesn't keep me up at night like some of the other detailed, the paint details. That's where I live. But
And let's just jump for 3 seconds into a little bit of these paint details, which is to say, this is where, I mean, I get the sense that you probably knew what this was instantaneously. Yeah. But obviously what's just so incredible here is the matching, just the paint matching, the various, I mean, again, and a lot of this is illustrated in the catalog, which is fantastic. But what jumped out at you? I guess maybe what are some of your favorite parts of the matching? I know it's a silly question, but you know what I mean? Yeah.
No, it's not silly at all. Yeah. I could fill an hour with just this probably, but just finally, I got a lovely photo survey, more than I ever could ask for. I work with a group of very talented guys who identified every decal from like 5 or 6 decal sheets. So, I scanned and redrew every decal, and I'm having them made by a shop. So, it being covered in decals is weird or unusual for Star Wars models, because that first wave, I think they were really kind of throwing everything at it before they realized, oh God, we're out of time.
Right.
And then sort of things, kind of picked up the pace a little bit. I theorize that Joe Johnston painted this particular one. He says he painted all the X-Wings. Certainly that first wave of fancy pyros and this one look a lot like Joe's work.
To me, and again, just to jump to the pyros for 4 seconds, to me, the pyros looked so good as they did because of Joe Johnston. And I sort of maybe rightfully or wrongfully assumed that this was Joe's handiwork.
I can't imagine it isn't. Yeah. And it being covered in decals shows that there was a lot of attention paid to this because they knew it was a hero. There's just lots of weird stuff unique stuff on this. It is covered in hash marks, which are either, if you remember the old letter set, dry transfer would have a row of letters and then dash marks and then just a row of hash and then more letters or numbers or whatever. And I'm pretty sure it's either chart pack or letter set dry transfer sheets. But some models, the original pirate ship before it was repainted to the Blockade Runner and this red one covered, like, I felt like hundreds of them. When I made a replica of it and finished it this past May or June.
Well, they're fascinating because you don't read them with your eyes on the models, but they do something to the models that, I mean, again, we always talked about, the George Lucas, lived in space, whatever. Again, it's like, I don't know why you would ever do that, but they figured it out that that's a great thing to do. You know what I mean?
Yep. Those and the armor plating with the little nibbles taken out of it and the styrene chips that was all meant to just break up the surface, as it went through the light.
And some of the damage, the blaster marks, I don't know what do we call those? Just like the
carbon
scarring.
Scoring.
Yeah, exactly. Carbon scoring. There you go. Yep, exactly.
Yeah. That one's very distinctive because it looks like it took a massive hit on the front and they put a new panel. So there's that hard line, with it sort of radiating outwards. Love that. The underside is very gray. On this particular model, for some weird reason, a panel has been cut out of the vacuum formed plastic. And it's not there. We can only theorize maybe that there was a short in the wiring and they were trying to ferret that out.
They were trying to get to something. Yep. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it makes me wonder, maybe that's why in a lot of the set photography, you never see the bottom. Weirdly,
but again, you heard it here first on the Stuff Dreams Are Made Of, brought to you by Heritage Auctions. There is a little piece missing from the bottom of this. Do not bid. It is clearly that piece is missing. You do not want a red leader without that. Don't bid. Definitely don't. Yeah.
Yeah, and they also the pilot has a little extra bit of putty detail to continue the hose down to his suit. It's the only example that we've ever seen where the hose continues all the way up to the pilot's head, which reflects the Joe Johnston sketch.
The drawings, exactly. Yeah, the storyboards. Yeah.
God, I was like over the moon about that. There is, in the past, some guys have remembered it as being slide glass material, but it is acetate. I don't know if it's neutral density filter.
I'm sorry, you're talking about the window of the cockpit? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's wild. And there had been debates about that for years. If you look at, there's a couple photos from, the Lucasfilm database, I guess. And if you're looking for it, you can finally say, oh yeah, okay, that's just a piece of acetate, just taped or glued down to the outside of the windows. And on this particular bird, it's so old that it's just coming up and missing from one side. I think I can't remember, but just so many details like that set it apart from anything else there.
And how else does one say this? But the back end of the movie, obviously the attack on the Death Star, this bad boy, I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, I don't know what, it's not like, oh, it matches to that one scene. Do you know what I mean? Like
when they're going down the trench and it's Luke, that red one is right there with him the whole time. It has so many amazing showcased shots in the film. Oh yeah, it's amazing. In fact, there's a quick 3-second shot that I love because it has that dopey Death Star crane in the foreground that I had to make a replica of. It's the only place that dumb thing appears. but there's an X-wing that sort of banks and does this. I think that might be Red 1. It's kind of hard to say. And weirdly, they have put tape on the bottom of the wings to make it look like Red 3, which the pyro reflected also. So it was, I guess, a pickup shot.
I mean, by the way, though, that's also sort of what's kind of wonderful is that sense of the catch as catch can. I mean, anybody who, if you've read about Star Wars, if you watched recently, I really enjoyed especially those that first part, the Disney, the documentary, the Lawrence Kasdan, Joe Johnston documentary, the recent one about the early days of ILM. I mean, when George comes back from England and they have, basically one shot done, you know what I mean? And whatever. Yeah, no, this is going to be Red 1. It's going to be Red 3. It's going to be Red 11 if it needs to be, you know what I mean? It's that. We just got to get some shots done, help me, it's just amazing, amazing.
Yeah.
In terms of the mounting points, I was trying to figure this out myself. Front mounting point, bottom mounting point, rear mounting point, top mounting point as well, or no?
Underneath the droid. Yeah.
Underneath the droid. Okay, that makes sense.
And then right there, and there's a bottom plate that's missing on this one, which is kind of great because you can see that it was primed a dark gray. Right. Not all of them were painted and primed the same way. But
we know this one was. So yeah.
But we know this one was, which I just I love that.
Yeah.
And there's a couple other things that are kind of interesting. There are 2 screws holding that top shell down onto the metal armature. And then I think they puttied over that. So on the front of the fuselage, you can see a circle where it's sort of laminated itself from the rest of the body. So there's like a definitive dot. And on the back by the droid, it's just a screw hole, or it's a screw. It's the little plug went away. Once you start looking for those, you can see them on the other heroes clear as day, which is wild. The laser cannons are different. We think that they are machined acrylic on this one.
Oh, interesting.
I can't confirm it. When it was discovered, one of the cannons was loose, and Jein held it up to the sun and saw red light coming through it. I know that there are lights in the 4 cannons and in the torpedo tubes that I think that they activated, via those ports on the sides and the front, for rotoscope to key to. And I don't know if that was successful or not. Oh, and there's also ports in the very back on the butt plate.
Gotcha.
So there's 6 holes back there too. So yeah, there's so many little cool, unique things about this model and about all heroes.
Yeah.
I think it's just wild. Oh, and there's gaffer tape or reflective 3M Scotch light. I'm not exactly sure which one, on the leading edge of the wings. So all 4 wings on that very front facing side, real definitively gaffer looking tape, with its pattern, and then pencil lines just sort of scribed onto it to give it a sort of an idea of it being a spaceship or whatever. And I had asked Richard Edlund what the deal with that was. And he said, we put them on the fronts and the backs of the wings because sometimes if it was angled just so on the blue screen, it would blow out.
Oh, so that's interesting. So they felt like they needed it to make sure it didn't. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
And by the way, again, probably one of those things where, it didn't have it. They got to, they started filming. By the way, they may have even done a round and then printed and then been like, oh, nope, we got to fix this, because that was part of their process. You know what I mean? Which this is what among the millions of things I love about this is, again, it takes you back, not just to the movie, but to that period of experimentation, which just makes me gaga.
Who wants to buy an experiment? All right. I mean, nobody should bid on this if it's just an experiment.
No, exactly. If it were perfected like a great model kit from Jedi, I think that's where you want to put your money. Yeah. Just on a snap together, not even glued one. That's not even, that's where you want to put your money. I honestly, and I realize you're not necessarily here to talk auction and bidding, whatever, but I can only just tell you, I'm so flabbergasted. I'm just flabbergasted by this. I'm flabbergasted because, and again, all kidding aside, obviously I would have loved to have seen this thing. I wished I could have I met Greg once. I've said this already. I wished I could have known him better. I wish there had been a day he had pulled this out and showed it to me. All of those things, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then he and I would have danced around it or something like that. And I don't know what that fantasy is, but I guess what I'm sort of saying is the idea that in a sort of a short, brief period of time, I mean, I'm about to say a hero pyro, which of course doesn't make any sense, but the Pyro Red One and then the Hero Red One both showing up in a certain period of the calendar is just, it's fucking crazy. I mean,
it's bananas. Yeah.
I would think even in just your replica world, as somebody who's just even, again, not a bidder, but just intrigued by this, that this has changed the foundation. These two pieces, the Pyro first, but now this had just changed what you knew about X-Wings. I mean, in general, right?
Yeah. As of this conversation that we're having right now, it's not public knowledge, but
but this will be airing and it will be public knowledge. So yes,
and I am cringing for the day that happens, because my phone is going to explode. I would like to think that people figured it out, that I knew ahead of time, because I have a replica of it done, and I wouldn't have gone to the trouble of throwing all of that time and effort at it had I not, because I'm kind of a weird perfectionist about that kind of stuff.
I truly do look forward to seeing your replicas of what you come up with of this bad boy. But this is just, I mean, I don't know what else to say. It's like I'm just shaking my head at it. My highest review was just shaking my head at this thing.
I can't believe I could have touched it. I could have held it. I could have kissed it.
I guess what I would honestly say, all kidding aside about bidding, in a world where you cannot freeze George Lucas and keep him in your dungeon, or chain Joe Johnston to your radiator. Other than those two things, I don't know. I'm thinking this is the best thing I've ever seen from Star Wars, ever. I think.
Outside of somehow pulling a heist and taking home the 5-foot Falcon, this is it. Yeah, I mean, there are a certain amount of.
I should say, by the way, while I don't condone crime, if anyone does steal the 5-foot Falcon and is looking to unload it, you call me, obviously. But I'm not going to bankroll you. Wink, wink. But
good luck,
I mean, I don't know. To me, this, and again, this is one of those silly things we always talk on the show about, the mom test. My mom knows what an X-Wing is. She may not know what the difference between a hero and a pyro is. You know what I mean? But it just, this is Star Wars. Oh my God.
It's funny because any scene with people in it, humanity, there's lots of arguments about who did what and what something should look like, especially as a replica. I mean, it's such a moving target. So I've always been a proponent of X-Wings were much brighter and whiter than y'all are painting yours, because you're painting it the way it looked after 30 years of UV exposure, pot, smoke, and
by the way, for a long time, old prints. You know what I mean? By the way, I have an old Star Wars print that got pink. You know, if you decide to paint it based on that, your X-Wing would be pretty pink. You know what I mean?
So it's really cool from my point of view to see this thing coming out of the woodwork, because there's such a mysticism about this particular holy relic in our little group. And that it was preserved, and that it's as shiny as it was.
It feels like we could literally attach it to a mounting point and start filming. I mean, that's the craziest part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, just tell Edlin to get the camera. Just tell Edlin to grab a camera and meet me somewhere. I mean, just insane. You all know what I think about this thing. I don't know what else to say. It's just incredible. And then, Jason, while you're here, let's just keep going for a second. Is there anything else about the X-Wing? I mean, I want to talk about it for years, and we may loop back on it. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of thinking on my part. Anything else that you just, as any last thoughts on anything about it that just rocks your world, or anything about it that you love, or we can, I mean, this was great. I'm not trying to.
It confirmed all theories that I've ever had about construction or that someone else has had about it. We learned new things about just how a hero was put together, which for me is like just so good. And it is irrefutably that model. It is a hero. It is all over the last 20 minutes of one of the most important science fiction.
It is Star Wars. The end.
I think it's just lovely.
And then when I lose that and we get to 465, this Death Star laser miniature cannon from Return of the Jedi, I'm going to bid $2 million on this thing to win that because I'm going to be in such a bad mood. A great little tower. You've seen these, obviously, a little Jedi tower. You've seen these before.
Yeah. I've got one that I'm restoring right now, actually.
Very nice. And, just again, sort of funny that, makes certainly a little bit of an easier piece that Greg would have had this kind of a thing. Now I'm going to just do this because fuck it. We've got, hardcore fans here. So you think, and I don't want to put bad words in your mouth, that there have basically been 3 ships, this one, a Y-wing, and what was the third ship that sort of have been kind of the ones that were kind of missing, if you will? What was the third one?
The one that just sold the
the Pyro.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So those 3, you think it's possible that Greg had them all at some point? And again, this is speculation, not fact.
It makes a logical sense.
I'm with you there.
And I can't imagine why it wouldn't have, if they all potentially went away at the same time. Right. You would think they would have, been a bonded trio.
I love it. I love it. And I love the idea that hopefully he traded them off, the other 2, for I hope it was like Logan's Run shit. That's what I hope it was.
Or like the Cloud Minders or something.
Yeah, like some random, whatever. I love it. I just love it. He just didn't really like the movie that much, but appreciated the models.
The bad guy's gun from Otherworld.
So humor me here just as we finish this section up, Jason. Ryan's going to be out of the toilet any second now. We've got just a couple. Were you ever a toy collector? Did you start with the toys? How old are you? Are you allowed to say?
Yeah. I turned 50 in a couple weeks.
Okay, so you're only a couple of years younger. So were you buying the Kenner toys as a kid? Your parents were buying you the toys?
Yeah. Oh, God, my parents spent so much money on that stuff. My mother is thrilled that I make money working for Star Wars licensees.
Sort of pay it all back, or that it all went. It's like my parents. My parents feel that way. My father, who always screamed at me a little bit, not screamed at me, but never understood fully the comic book thing. Somewhere along the way, when I became a writer, even though I'm not specifically a superhero writer or anything, he now considers it money well spent. Like it was a good investment. That's how he thinks it.
My background is fine arts. I worked in an art store for over a decade. I started work at 13 because I was an idiot and thought I want to be a grown up. That prepared me accidentally for all the stuff I do now, because I know, oils, acrylics, interactivity of chemicals,
It's so funny. It's kind of like you have one of those weird resumes that would have made you a great hire in 1976 because you knew about shit that the average guy didn't. Yeah. I guess that's your time machine. You wouldn't bother with killing Hitler. You would just go back to 76 and stick your resume in. Yep, I get it.
You got me.
I understand.
Years ago, Lauren had said to me, he's like, I would have hired you in a heartbeat if you were 10 years older and on the other coast. I'm like, cool, I'm going to go kill myself now.
Yep, exactly. That's what you want to hear. Yeah.
It's the highest praise. I mean, it's like, thank you.
It's exactly. The skills were there. I mean, that's what's so fascinating is these guys weren't quote unquote model builders because there were no fucking models. They were just guys with weird skills. Yeah, exactly. Did you ever have Lot 466 is a really nice graded, these are all from Greg's collection, like the Star Trek stuff. Although this one, that one doesn't say, the toys do. This one doesn't say Greg Jein collection, although the toys do. This is a mint 80 plus sealed early bird certificate. My parents would not buy the early bird certificate. They would not buy cardboard with no toys in it, even though you were sent the toys. My mother felt it was a scam of some sort, I think. So
no, we didn't get the early bird, but I did have the Luke with the double telescope.
Oh wow,
saber,
nice, very nice.
Double, and I remember hating them because they would curl. And when that was like replaced later by a different Vader and Luke, and they had the sort of hardier, less collectible ones, I was happier. I also had the big head Han, which they replaced with the smaller head.
Well, they've got a gorgeous. I mean, these are some really nice figures. They're punched, so that obviously for you toy people, they're punched. But an 85 Han, an 80 C3PO, an 85 Luke X-Wing with the Boba Fett thing on. These are some really nice figures that were in Greg's collection. What I love about it, and I'm going to get one of these just to have it, is they are labeled the Greg Jein collection. We said this about the Star Trek toys too. The idea of having a toy or something that says Greg Jein's name on it, I love. And then he's got two versions of the this is 73 and 74. I have both of these in my collection, but they has the Boba Fett the action figure header displays. So these are the in-store toy display pieces. He has both versions of the Boba Fett, the one that had the rocket firing being shown, and then obviously they covered that up with a piece of like black tape because obviously no longer that. And then he's got a couple of versions, 75 and 76 of the Collect All 21 with the figures on it. And I love these store displays. I have them all. I love them all. Let me ask you another toy question. Would your parents let you have more than one Stormtrooper?
Yes. Okay.
Really?
This is lovely. My parents are hippies. Yeah. Okay. It was a whole system my father figured out. As a quick aside, we built that Millennium Falcon as a family together at the dinner table, and that's I think what kick-started the whole model thing. It had lights. But yeah, action figures. Anytime I would get a figure from a visiting aunt, uncle, whatever, they would usually get you a Star Wars figure. And it was always like Darth Vader. And my dad at one point, and I'd be like, ugh. And my dad hit me to this very quickly. He said, just say thank you, but don't open it.
Right.
And then the next day he would go to juvenile sales in Annapolis, Maryland, and he knew them all, and they let him exchange it for a Stormtrooper. So I ended up with 10 Stormtroopers after a while.
I would have hated you as a child. All I ever wanted was a second Stormtrooper. I mean, I wanted 10 Stormtroopers. I had every figure but one Stormtrooper, and the play drove me crazy. Like you just needed more Stormtroopers. Like they should have sold at some point a box of Stormtroopers. That would have been so cool. Yeah, that would have been great. 477 and 478, they have two really nice, especially 478 is an 80 Princess Leia 12-inch, and the other one is a Luke 12-inch. These are both just lovely. I really enjoy these figures. The Leia is a particularly nice box. Again, a little bit of childhood, but again, Greg Jein collection. And that takes us to the end of Star Wars. Jason, I want to thank you so much. I apologize on the lack of Ryan's professionalism. I apologize. We're going to send him back for some remedial training if he ever gets out of the toilet. But I really do want to thank you. Where can people find you? I always look at you on Facebook, but where do you want people to find you? Because may I say, if you are interested in having a replica, commissioning him to build you something, I highly recommend it. And then also for you prop collectors, there are few and far between of people that I would trust if you have a model, a studio scale, a real model in your collection, whatever the film, dare I say, not just Star Wars, that I would trust in terms of digging into it, analyzing it, and repairing it both sympathetically but also properly. And highest kudos to you, Jason. Where can people find you in the world?
JasonEatonStudio.com.
There you go. Check it out. And he's got a whole bunch of his work up there. And goddamn good stuff. But thank you so much for going through this stuff with me.
This is I could talk about this endlessly.
No.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, and I'll billboard this now. Somewhere in this season, we're going to do more miniatures, and we're going to bring you back and try and grab Gene Kazicki too, and kind of really dig in deep on miniatures, because there's so much good. It's something we haven't talked a lot about, because this auction is going to just change everything. All these years where none of the miniatures were out there, and it's like, well, I know, because they were in Greg's collection. Now they're here. So I think it's something to really exciting to talk about. Let us keep going with our page by page. Oh wait, I think I hear Ryan. Here he comes.
Dave, are you okay?
I was about to say I need to sit down, and then I remembered I am sitting down.
You need to stand up.
Yeah, I'm not sure I need to look at the rest of this catalog at this point, because at this point I think I'm bankrupt.
I don't think what else is in there. Yeah, you're bankrupt or divorced, possibly both.
Possibly both.
Dave, I harangued you during the segment that we did with friends of the podcast, Jason Eaton and Gino Sabatino. But this is going to begin a very long campaign that I have today with you. For it's a story about second chances, and how tortured you were in the lead up to the last X-Wing selling, and now that there's a new X-Wing that's on the market that's actually significantly better than the one that you thought you'd never have another shot at. And I had said it in the previous segment. I will simply say it here, and I will keep saying it in every episode until that auction happens. I just don't see how you don't just get that thing and figure it out later. I think it's the best thing instantly in your Star Wars collection. I think it's so unique to you and what you've always wanted. I've had all these conversations with you before in the previous X-Wing, but now it's like, now you've had the experience of having lost it and been able to process it and whatever. And I just what else is there out there for you that's going to get you that excited about Star Wars? And I just don't see how you don't just buy it and then figure out what you're selling to Heritage to pay it off later, and just don't think about the money, because it's all kind of monopoly money and equity that you have in other collectibles that you've had for 25 years.
The possibility, look, I mean, I'm not going to lie, the possibility of doing it with, comic art and whatnot, which is not something I was able to do when I was bidding the last time, so to speak. I'm not quite sure.
You could have done it, but it would have involved a lot of selling.
I don't know what my plans were.
Realizing gains and then having to write new checks and whatever.
There's a version here that certainly works.
You can pay it off with 11 by 14 poster board.
It is. I mean, but I do also wonder at the same time, I will just simply say, it's so damn good. I just like the notion of quote unquote a higher price is baffling to me, and I leave it at that at the moment.
Yeah. But even I think I kind of don't care, and I realize it's not my money; it's your money. But I will be haranguing you for the next 6 weeks.
Harangue away. I got a lot to think about.
Yes.
But luckily, I can think while we look at starting with 479
Battlestar Galactica.
Battlestar Galactica. We got a storyboard binders. And again, for those that don't know, Battlestar Galactica was basically Apogee, which is basically all the ILM guys, when Star Wars got done, they kind of went off and made a bunch of them made Battlestar Galactica. Ralph McQuarrie,
led by
Joe
John
Johnston,
Dykstra, who
Dykstra,
kind of fell out with Lucas. And
And so, whatever you like or don't like about the show, you got to kind of respect the designs, if nothing else. I mean, it's really well done. There's a big script lot. But then we kind of get into the stuff. 481, you have the Colonial Viper helmet, which I've owned and gotten rid of, but I've always liked. You've got pieces of the costume. But then this is where it gets really cool, which is 483, which is one of the Vipers. And obviously you can see the X-Wing in it. Obviously that was, I think, George Lucas's lawsuit. But, again, design work by Joe Johnston and Ralph McQuarrie in there. I think Johnston helped make these models, among other guys too. And forgive me if I'm missing other credits in there. I'm not trying to discount anyone, but I guess in a world where you don't have an X-Wing, a scratch build X-Wing, A scratch built Colonial Viper is pretty damn good. I mean, they really look like rejected X-Wing designs.
They do,
and I think they kind of are. In the Macquarie book, you see some of his designs that are darn close to this. I mean, down to the gray and down to obviously the red, red paint. And then this is followed up 484 with a Cylon Raider miniature, which is a wonderful design unto itself. And the way those things sort of swarm in the show, I always just thought looked really fantastic with mounting points and whatnot. So I just really, really, really fantastic. And there's two of those. There's two Raiders. There's a one from the show, and then there's a second one from Galactica 1980, which is I think maybe a slightly different design, but still pretty neat. I know I get a kick out of these. I will. To be honest, I have a set. I have a Viper and a Raider in my set for those reasons that I kind of said. And I'm a huge fan for whatever it's
excellent
worth.
Things to trade away once you buy your X-Wing.
It is no shock that Greg has these also. I mean, again, as somebody who loved miniatures, I just think it's just pretty damn cool. Yeah. Starbucks Jalopy from the Return of Starbuck Galactica 80 episode. A Warrior Belt 488. George Evans, a wonderful comic book artist. Sorry, some kind of bug on me for a second. I apologize. 489, Death of an Ace. That's
the bug. Beautiful... Also wants you to buy the X-Wing, Dave.
That's what he said. Then I swatted him and killed him. 490 Superman stills, 224 stills. God, good reference stuff in there. I'll bet you. 491, a Greg Jein built ship from something called Laser Blast that I've never heard of.
Erwin Yablans. I don't know.
482 gets us to the 1941 section. Greg worked on 1941. He worked on all the miniatures. Let us not discuss the movie and let us just talk about the miniatures. And I look at 494 and I just love it. I love the little planes. I love the little airplane
tiny
bundles.
Little newspapers. Yeah.
Just fantastic. I mean, just gorgeous. Look at 495. This is a prototype filming miniature. God damn.
Tiger.
Gorgeous work that Greg did on this
for Belushi's plane. Yeah.
Oh, is that for Howling Mad, whatever?
Yeah, Wild Bill Kelso.
Wild Bill, not Howling Mad. Sorry, Howling Mad Murdoch from the A-Team. I apologize.
Better film, possibly, the A-Team.
Dwight Schultz, I liked him. Next Gen, right? Lieutenant Barclay or whatever, right?
Yeah, Barclay.
Come on.
Yeah.
Yep.
The nervous lieutenant commander.
496. I think I talked about this a little earlier, which is Buck Rogers. So now you get to sort of. This is a hell of a section of Buck Rogers. So it starts with special effects binders. Then it gets into concept designs for Buck's ship. This is the ship they find him frozen in, kind of clearly they were working off of the space shuttle. And this probably appealed to Greg and his love of space.
Yeah. Very Captain America kind of story.
Yes,
going there
frozen
too, right?
exactly in space instead of whatever. So this is the Ranger 3 filming miniature. This is a gorgeous ship. I mean, I don't know what else to say. It's a gorgeous miniature. And then they have 499, the Buck's Starfighter. And I love these designs as well. I mean, again, I love this show. Don't go back and watch it, but I love this show. They've got 500 is the Draconian Marauder, also a great design. I love that look. These are great looking ships. I mean, I don't know what else to say. These miniatures are fantastic. And again, I mean, we're talking whatever this would have been, like 1980, 1979, 1980. So in the wake of Star Wars, these are great scratch-built miniatures. I mean, I don't know. There's just something. There's something pretty incredible about this. And in the world of miniatures, which obviously Greg was such a part of, I don't know. The miniature collection, which is something that have just been few and far between in prop collecting in general. There are just some choice examples in this auction. No
Yes.
shock, but wonderful. 502, Colonel Wilma Deering, Aaron Gray's helmet. Not probably young boy's favorite part of her costume, but part of her costume nonetheless. 503, Buck's dress jacket. Dr. Goodfellow, 504. There's a regular defense uniform. 506, blasters. Yeah. God, wonderful.
507,
a stunt blaster. I mean, I don't know. I've few and far. I've seen these things pop up from time to time, but never a hero. Certainly, I've never seen a hero. Buck Rogers. That's just pretty cool in your grand scheme of laser blaster and whatnot. Yeah. I love 509, which is a miniature from Moonraker. A Drax Space Force soldier.
Very 2001, by the way.
Yes, absolutely. From the big sort of space fight that they have, in space with their floating backpacks and laser guns. As I guess even James Bond had to respond to Star Wars, right? That was sort of what went on there.
Yeah.
Let's see. Brave New World. I don't know this. Oh, Deal of the Century, the Chevy Chase movie. I guess some miniature jets. This man loved miniatures, huh? That gets us now to the V section, which I am quite fond of. So these are a whole bunch of filming miniatures, which I think Greg himself worked on this. So these are probably things that he built and made.
Yeah, that was my understanding.
Yeah,
and
there are
people that are very excited about this because they didn't know what he had, and sort of there's a big V sort of sub collecting community.
Shuttles, all different sizes, with and without landing gear and whatnot, miniatures, laser guns, security uniforms. I mean, just a V extravaganza, laser rifles with scope. And even like the what do you call it? The
stock.
No, the what do you call the piece of cloth or whatever?
The strap.
Strap. Oh, God damn, I am losing it. It's just
the X-wing has left him speechless.
No, I know. It's just like the word strap has left my vocabulary. Yeah,
by Red Leader.
There's a nice little V collection you could put together in here. I always love the design of I love the design of the guns. I love the shuttle. I love
it's very cool. It's funny.
These aren't hero ones, but I love the costumes, the ensembles, the vests, all the little logos and stuff. Yeah.
This is totally neither here nor there, but I was a giant fan of and had all this stuff when I was a kid of laser tag. Do you remember laser tag with the Z? And all of that stuff, when you look at this, it was so heavily influenced by V. Exactly, it's so crazy. Yeah.
That's
down
to
like the helmet and the vest and all that stuff. And I just love that thing. It's such a cool toy.
Again, as you put it, a subculture, but pretty wonderful.
Yeah.
This is, speaking of subcultures, 528, the spacecraft miniature from Buckaroo Banzai. I mean, I feel like the cult of Buckaroo Banzai is crazy strong, and you rarely get to see. I feel like we've seen some costumes maybe over the years, but again, a miniature, whatever happened to those miniatures? Well, Greg Jein had it. I don't know. I think this is pretty cool. This is going to be, this is my prediction for something that's going to surprise us by going a little higher than we necessarily thought it was going to go. I don't know, like I almost like laughing. I'll call him out by name. Like, is Dan Lanigan just going to be like, I have to have this one? Do you know what I mean? Like,
maybe.
Yeah, in a really funny way.
We should call him up. We'll find him.
Dan, we're gonna find this out because I feel like this is the Buckaroo Banzai is right up your alley. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Now we've got a whole bunch of Dune stuff, or not a whole bunch, but a couple pieces
2 lots.
from 2 lots. But the a belt and holster, whatever, and a rifle,
Atreides rifle,
family,
and Atreides pistol and belt with Patrick Stewart. Sort of
good design stuff. I mean, really, I love the design. I mean, I'll just leave it at that. Yeah,
like retro future design.
And then if you can't afford the 2001.
How's 2010?
I mean, look, if you were going to have something from 2010, wouldn't this maybe be the helmet? Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And you can sit there and convince yourself, like, is there some chance that maybe
I think so. I asked this question, but I think Greg worked on 2010. So I think that I think that's the story that I heard. Don't quote me, but I think he actually built this stuff, so it's very unlikely that it was
not. But you can
a repaint.
Lie to yourself and just convince yourself that there's a 0.0000001% chance that like this is the one from 2001. It's not, but it's still really, 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 but it could be cool. And certainly a design that, you know, obviously didn't change much. So in a world where you ain't ever getting the other one, I mean, certainly the red one, you're not getting. Pretty cool. An amazing story spacecraft.
Flight and Navigator.
Oh, that's really cool.
534.
God, it's like every miniature of every ship from every 80s thing that I can think of. Yeah. Just so wild. Cool. And then, of course, batteries not included. Batteries robots. Not included. Look at that.
Adorable. Yeah.
Absolutely great. Guns from Masters of the Universe.
Amazing.
Which is wonderful. Yep. Absolutely.
I have to wonder, like, did he work on this? I
mean, it's probably the kind of thing where, you know, the one time I met him, I feel like I want to say it was like on the Grinch or something, where it was just like they had just brought him in to work on, like, I don't know, the sled or something. You know what I mean? Like they would just bring him in with a specific thing that he would work on. And so, you know, who knows? I bet he did. I mean, I guess we could IMDb him and just look at his credits, but it's more easier just to think about things out loud.
Yeah.
The Batwing master pattern to create the filming miniature.
Yeah.
Does in a world of not the rest of the auction, does this interest you, Ryan? Just like I'm looking about whatever.
Yeah, it's cool. I like.
I know it's not the screen used one, but you know
it's
what
in
I'm
the
saying?
shape of
yes.
I actually got excited when I saw this because I was like, oh, did he also have all the 89 hardware that's missing? And no, he didn't. But he did have, oddly, Lot 539, Val Kilmer's Batman hero Batgoo gun from Batman Forever, which is,
and then you kind of wonder, like, does that mean he made this, or did he have something to do with? I mean, you just wonder, like, why the goo gun?
Just because he was a Batman fan? I don't know.
Why? Yeah, why the goo gun is the real question that unfortunately we'll never get an answer to. And maybe if someone knows why the goo gun, please let us know. These are from the War of the Worlds TV show. A Total Recall Mars police helmet. That's kind of neat.
Police from Mars. Yeah, the colony police.
Human Target, the TV show, created by not the show wasn't created by, but the wonderful comic created by Len Wein. The wonderful, now sadly gone, but wonderful gentleman. Who I got to know for a bit, which was a bit. Ultraman. I mean, this is some of this is Godzilla versus King Ghidorah from '91 from Toho. I mean, boy, this is just really cool, fascinating stuff.
A run of Stargate stuff.
Stargate, I guess, movie and TV show. It looks like, the show, which I saw the movie, never kind of got into the show.
Yeah.
I love Independence Day.
49. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, 49. 48 though. I still like, I know we've talked about these designs. I like the maquettes, but yes, 549, the Mars Attacks, the ray gun.
One of them at some point. Yeah, just one of them. Yeah, it's a Mars Attacks ray gun. Perfect.
550, Billy Zane, the Phantom costume.
Which is wild that he has that. Like, and there you go. It's the whole that's the collection right there, all in one lot.
The skulls of Tuganda. Yeah. Oh wow, just hilarious. Yeah. This made me laugh. These are Salem the cat from Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Amazing.
These are like the puppet in different positions. Voiced by, was it Nick Bakai, I think, did the voice. I did not know. Did Greg work on these? Did he just appreciate the cat miniature? God damn, just hilarious and great. This is fantastic. I love the look of this. 554 from Starship Troopers. The battle damage is just wonderful. The 193, the Greg Jein. That's pretty cool. Named after him.
The Corvette from Starship Troopers, named after the man himself.
That's just pretty wonderful.
Fantastic Four and Spy Kids and
concept model, Spy Kids, mushrooms. I guess that's it. Miniature mushrooms from Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland.
There we go. What an movie
that bothers me in my very soul. I don't know why, but it just does.
It has an uncanny valley sort of thing going on.
Something that just really, truly bothers me.
Yeah.
And I will be bidding hard on these mushrooms. Do not go up against me. I wish I could say I was shocked by the X-Wing, but obviously we sort of knew it was coming. I end this by, I reiterate how incredible I believe, how just absolutely incredible this is. By the way, an ad on the last page for the sci-fi trading cards auction featuring the Greg Jein collection of sci-fi trading cards. So I guess he really did just collect everything. God bless the man. So if you need some autographed Kirk inserts, go for it from the Greg Jein collection or whatever. I mean, this is a monumental collection. I mean, I do think we need to digest it, but any thoughts as we've reached the end here? Anything to say?
I mean, it's just so
I think
nuts
it's as historic as we billboarded it, maybe more so. Maybe we undersold it.
Yeah. I don't know. And like, I mean, what's the final collection number for this? 10 to 15 million?
I mean, maybe more. I mean, these starting bids, and again, I love it. It's people are going to be mixing it up on this stuff big time. But I mean, boy, I don't know. I mean, yes, there's some weird titles, but even from the weird titles, there's
the best
prime
stuff.
choice stuff. There is just iconic, recognizable stuff. And I can't sit here and say to you that the Space 1999 stuff is going to go crazy. And I can't even sit here and say to you that all 3 bat belts are going to go crazy. But they're just, I don't know. They're going to go hard. I mean, I don't know. It just, I think these numbers are going to be big in a great way. I mean, I think the beauty of this is I think you have a chance at anything and everything, but my God, there's just some incredible pieces. And then the more it goes, it just builds. You go past these things like the original phasers. You go past again, we're calling out the things we love, Wrath of Khan, but you're building to 2001, to the Star Wars stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it just gets randomly dropped in. There's a 2001 suit. There's this. Yeah. There's the original Stormtrooper from A New Hope. And I mean, I'm still struggling to figure out where I'm focusing fire. Thankfully, I think for me, the sort of order that things fall kind of help because I can kind of go, focus early. And if that doesn't work out,
because I mean, you can focus, but how much are you keeping in reserve knowing 2001? Well,
I just think there's a realistic play for me. And then there's an unrealistic play. And I think the unrealistic play happily happens last. So if all else fails, you take a flyer on the unrealistic play and just see where you are. I don't know. I mean, I know where you come down, but I mean, in sort of, I have to say, in a normal world or an ideal world where money is no object, you would almost have to go after both the Stormtrooper and the X-Men.
By the way, I have an incredible Stormtrooper in my collection. I have a screen matched, also a helmet, but not, I guess technically not as good a helmet, hero. Maybe. It's yes, exactly. Not a hero helmet. I have most of a set of armor, but some of it's from Star Wars, some of it isn't, but I have missing pieces. But that in a vacuum, that armor is earth shattering alone. I mean, again, we said some of this, but my God,
one of the greatest things to Star Wars ever come up. Yeah.
But I am also, I mean, I know this is crazy. I'm still staring back a little bit. I'm still staring back at some of the Batman stuff and some of the Wrath of Khan stuff and some of the Star Trek original series stuff on day one, which is just like, and and obviously, I'm going to do some thinking. You got to be disciplined because
if you're going to pass all that up,
what are you going after? Exactly.
Yeah. Which I think we will talk about. There are
strategies to be had. There are strategies to be had. But I mean, I don't know what else to say except maybe to end this show, but we're going to be talking a little bit more about this auction as we get closer, as we sort of talk about we're going to follow this episode up with, as we said, sort of a little bit of a deep dive into Greg the guy, because I just think he deserves it. A little salute to him, the man. So I think that'll be coming up. But at some point, Ryan and I are going to kind of go through our pre-auction insanity. But we'd love to hear from you guys. Like, just tell us, what are you going after something? Do you have a plan? Are you going after something and thinking about what you're selling? We'd love to hear your plans. If you want to share them with us. Yeah. And just email us, write us through the social media. We are at Props Podcast. Ryan, what's our beautiful email?
dreamsareMadeOfPodcast@gmail.com.
At gmail.com. We want to hear what you're thinking, because this is epic. And I feel like you have to have something from the Greg Jein collection.
Yes.
I would love to know what are you thinking? Let us know. Is there a game to play here at the end?
What do you want from day 2?
What do you want from Space 1999? Ryan, go.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this, because this is a better way of playing it, because I think people know what we love from the stuff that we don't love, meaning not our favorite favorites. Do you know what I mean? Like, not our no-brainers. What maybe blew you away the most? Do you know what I mean? Like if you could have something from something that we don't think of, and by the way, it may not even be something you're actually going to bid on.
Right.
But if you know what I mean? Like, but if you could have back in the day found a Commando Cody thing and then traded it to Greg for something that he was willing to give up, what would that have been?
I mean, we talked about a bit in day 1. I mean, I would just go like realistic. I think the Phaser 2 is going to be one of the highest selling items in the, highest finishing sort of price.
What if I take all Star Trek just out of the thing, just because it's such a I'm trying to like get away from the marquee stuff.
Got it, maybe because I was going to sort of answer, because it's not my thing at all, but I was going to sort of answer like, I did do entertaining the idea, like, should I be getting a Kirk and Spock from the original series?
Yes.
Because it's just like, that should be a part of,
by the way,
a science fiction collection.
And again, we're going to talk about this, but who knows, by the time you get to, I don't know, like Kirk number 4 and Spock number 3, I mean, maybe.
Yeah, and I've entertained that. I mean, does Batman count as marquee? I guess it does, right? You're talking about
semi-marquee, yeah. I'm gonna go first and surprise you, or maybe not, because we did talk about it. Honestly, in terms of the things that I hadn't really ever thought about, that Buck Rogers ship does it for me.
Okay,
yeah, like just because it's a little bit of my childhood. I know, like I said, I know it's awful. I know it, but I had that toy. I had a toy version of that ship. I had, they did little Star Wars like Buck Rogers action figures, and I had those. And I don't know, that does it for me, and something I would never think about. You know what I mean? But I would go for. So I don't know. That's, I guess, how I was sort of thinking about this bastardized version.
Yeah, I mean, then I'll just go for a weird one. I would say the Logan's Run gun, and I had, because I had such a connection to that for like a brief year and a half of my life. I wish I had half of that experience was a really great experience, and half of it was really terrible. And I won't get into details, but I really enjoyed a lot of it until I didn't. And I wish I just overall had a better sort of, even the movie never got made. Joel Silver told me when because he was involved as a producer, when I got involved, he pulled me aside and he goes, I've been trying to make this movie since 1996, since before The Matrix. Good luck.
Yeah.
And he was great to me and told wonderful stories, and he's a New Jersey guy and all that. We really got on, he and I, and he was instrumental in my hiring, but it was he sort of like threw the challenge in front of me, and it's a very hard movie to get made. Anyway, I spent a lot of time in that world. I read the book and really came to love the original book, which I don't think I would have ever read without it. So because of its sort of weird place in my experience as a science fiction fan and as a writer, I would say that the flame pistol would be an interesting one to have on the shelf. Was
flame pistol and locators name checked in the book, or were those creations? No, those were creations of
I think they called it like a DS, like a deep sleep pistol, but they didn't really get into how it worked, and it was death. I mean, it was retirement, but they didn't call it that. So as a propagandic way to, kind of not say that you were slaughtering your fellow man for living past 21. I think we should leave it there and just leave everybody with time to think. We will come back. We will talk more about Greg and this auction in future episodes. But goddamn, this is just the biggest thing that's happened, I think.
I got through this catalog, and all I can say is fuck me. Just fuck me.
Yeah.
Just
really
fuck
great.
me. Boy, I hope this strike ends. Is that a demand to bring to the AMC? You know, there's a Greg Jein auction on October 14th. We need to be back in production by October 14th. Yeah. Fuck me. A hell of an auction catalog. Yeah. All right. We'll talk to you guys on the next week. Thank you, everyone, for
take care,
making it through all this. Hey, the Stuff Dreams Are Made Of podcast listeners. Heritage Auctions, our new sponsor, is putting out the Greg Jein catalog for $50. However, we've got a special offer just for you listeners. This catalog is so good. This is going to be essential reference for your bookshelf. It is so great that this catalog, which is normally $50, for you, at the link in our show information, there's a link there right now. You can get the catalog for $25, only for Stuff Dreams Are Made Of listeners. It is such a great catalog. I told them to print extra. I told them our listeners are going to buy this catalog. That's how good it is. And I guess I need to tell you that if they don't sell, I'm going to get stuck buying them all. So please, click on the link and buy a catalog. $25, 50% off. Set Phaser for half off.